Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just up here on the right.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
Kinda got a 6th sense.
And a head-up display.
They're here.
Hit the field, warm up. You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yeah.
So you.
It is.
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
You see, Head & Shoulders has Scalp Shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working!
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. like really loves.
No.
Wrap. I'm Brian Fulford. That's AD Drew, and it's we are happy to be with you live from our home studios. Drew with the elaborate background, me with just a plain wall. Drew, how you doing today? Tonight,
Wait a
rather.
minute, hold up. Have you seen? Check out the new
And you got a
gear.
colorful jersey. Colorful gear. See, where did you get that from?
Man, I was at the BXWAC Challenge, man. You know how many vendors was out there?
Yeah. Hopefully selling
maybe.
licensed merch.
Yeah, I made sure I asked old boy. I was like, I need to see the sticker or something, the TM or something on there that is officially licensed and everything. Mm-hmm. The only problem that I had, and I didn't really get a chance to go into the vendor area, is you had 20 people selling the same product. So sometimes things got a little cutthroat over there doing everything, So
speaking of merch, I let me ask you this: are you how? And I know we have our schools that we graduated from, FAM and U Tuskegee as well.
Right.
How into wearing other schools' gear are you? And I ask you from the standpoint of I'm an educator, and I continue to want to wear HBCU gear on Fridays, which is our dress down day. But I struggle back and forth. Okay, do I wear just FAM gear on Friday, or do I sometimes rep other schools? Because I want the kids, because we've got a mix of 30-30-30 at our school, so that's a largely predominant minority group of kids then. So I want them to see and know of other HBCUs, and I am that one visible person that first off, because of my skin color and my gender, that when I walk around campus, the kids know me. Even the little kids I don't even know, hug me and say. So I mean, just what advise me. What do you think? What do you think? Should I start repping more gear on Friday or stick to the FAMU gear?
Yeah, I wear SWAC gear sometimes. I wear MEAC gear. I've got to have some type of emotional tie to the school. Like if it's a kid that I coached who's at an HBCU, or a kid that I taught who's at an HBCU, I have no problem wearing that, because then when somebody asks me, why do you have on, for instance, Alabama A&M? Well, I got 5 kids that I either taught or coached at Alabama A&M or at Albany State or something like that. So for me, I need a direct tie. But also for us in what we do, schools that we have partnerships with would be high up on my list also. So those would be my two. Those would be the two things that I would do. If I need some type of relationship to put them high up on the list.
Okay, so then let me I like that. So then let me put this out there, put this into the etherverse, and maybe it'll come true. So I've got my parents who are Norfolk State graduates.
You can get away with that one.
I get away with it. My sister is a Tennessee State graduate.
Once again,
Okay, good. Let's see. I've got cousins that went to Hampton. Probably, I think, when did they turn from institute to university?
In the 80s sometime.
Okay, so it
Sometime
was
in the
probably
80s.
university, but it might have been close to when they were institute. So I got a couple of cousins there, right? Let's see what else. I've got cousins that went to North Carolina A&T. And he also then later went to Tuskegee. So there's that. And then look, obviously, we have our partnerships with Stillman, Payne. We've done stuff with Florida Memorial. We've done stuff with Edward Waters. So I would rep all of those. So what I'm saying is, anybody out there that would like to help me so that I can wear more gear on Fridays for my kids or represent the HBCU landscape, the diaspora, as Doc likes to call it, let me know. Looking for some good 3X gear. If it's a tight 3X, then I go 4X. You can see these broad shoulders right here, right? But there's a little something else,
The broad
girth here
shoulders
in
is
the middle. It's just the broad. Right, but anyway, so yeah, if you can help.
No
I'll
guts.
even
No guts allowed.
Well, look, hey, we're trying to get rid of it. We're trying. We're working. Hats and visors too. I'll rep hats and visors. So,
I'm not
you
a
guys
visor
hit me up
person.
on. I can rock a visor. I look pretty good in a visor when I got a haircut.
I say a visor does me no good, Mariah, because I still get sunburned right about here.
See, there you go. You can hit me up on Twitter at DRB365, and just let me know if you can help the merch
You see
chain.
what Tamara T says? I never wear
Yeah,
anyone else. I wear FAMU regardless, and I work at a university. Tamara, if you get it a check from that place, they need to be high on the list.
I feel
Matter
you,
of
Tamara
fact,
T. I feel you on that.
Speaking of that, when I worked at Tuskegee University, I would never wear FAMU on campus. I would wear FAMU gear
I agree.
in the street. I would never wear FAMU gear on campus or when I was doing something tied to Tuskegee University.
I agree with you on that because, that's sort of, I look at it as, it's kind of disrespectful. You're walking around, you're an employee of the university. You gotta
I know
rep
when my
that,
bread is buttered.
Exactly. You want that thing. Who is that Rattler? Oh, he's going into the administration office.
I have something FAMU on the wall in the office or something like that.
Sure.
Something along that line, but not. I can't wear it. Unless those two are playing each other, and even if the two times that FAMU and Tuskegee actually competed against each other when I was at the event while I was working at Tuskegee. Let's see. Well, one time I was coaching against FAMU, so obviously I couldn't wear anything FAMU. The only good thing is we was in Tallahassee. Matter of fact, we opened up the Lawson Center in Tallahassee, first ever basketball game in the Lawson Center.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I will say, with all of that said, there is one
FAMU.
school, there is one HBCU I will never wear. You know what that is, though. So I got to keep that real. I'm keeping that 100. Yes, sir.
And I'm glad you put that.
Hold on. If you see me rocking Bethune gear, it's because I lost a bet. All respect, T-Dos. I lost a bet. I know T-Dos might be in the chat room. He might have tuned in. But if I lost a bet, that'd be the only reason you see me rocking some Bethune gear. Just know that. Just say, B, what bet did you lose and how big was it?
Or Bethune give me a check. If we're on campus doing a game time show, then I might throw some Bethune gear on.
I might wear the colors, but I won't put that logo. Okay. I won't put that logo on my hat or chest. I'm sorry. Nope. Can't do it.
Wait a minute.
Can't do it.
Hold on.
I don't care how much of a check you're giving us.
Go back to the game time show that we did in Atlanta 2 weeks ago when we had all 12 members of the SWAT. If you go back at that video and pay attention, I had the Tuskegee shirt on right before the Bethune people came on. And I purposely changed the Tuskegee gear because the colors were too close to each other.
Right. Yes.
I did not want anyone to be confused with that.
Exactly.
And then their producer Roy says, hey, because I was going to go with a neutral shirt. But Roy said, no, put your FAMU shirt back on. Okay.
There you go.
No problem.
Okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hey, you guys, thanks for interacting and joining us on Facebook. If you're watching us on the Black College Sports Network page or on our SportsWrap page, if you're watching us on Twitter, you can go be a part of the conversation on Facebook. You can also go to our YouTube page. My JBN1 is where the discussion is going on. Great folks in there. Reverend Johnny M. Leggett was the first one to get in the building. He beat you to it, Tamara T. Dem Boys, Mary 305, Edwin Moore, David Garner. Let's see. Israel Carey, Real Talk. Dr. Cavil's in the house. So I appreciate that's a little bit of the folks who are already in early on the YouTube. Are you paying attention to the Facebook group?
Yes and no.
Chuck Hunt. I saw Chuck Hunt on the Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was looking at the comments coming across, but
okay. Well, hey, let's make sure you're following us Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1. That's the number one. Hit that thumbs up button wherever you are watching us, and however you consume. We'd appreciate it if you go ahead, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the page, and always want to remind you all of our shows you can find in podcast format on BCSN Pod Zone. That's it. Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeart. It's all there. And I mean, the content is about to get heavy because we got new show, or I shouldn't say new, but renewed shows coming back up, all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to miss anything. That's just more work for your boy, Drew, because that just means me having to spend late nights getting the audio uploaded onto the Pod Zone. So when you go check out a podcast, whatever platform, go ahead and rate it, subscribe, do whatever. It all helps us out and helps out the algorithms. We've got a lot of to talk about. Week 0 just finished up on the HBCU football schedule with 3 games that we had, and now we get into game week. It's Sunday. It is game week. Week 1s are going on this upcoming weekend. We got plenty to talk about. But first, let's sort of let's take a rewind to the last 24 hours with some of the HBCU action. And we're going to talk, Drew, with the game that you were at, probably, had it not been for a situation going on in Tallahassee and Chapel Hill, the headline going into the weekend would have probably been all about the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Great attendance from what I saw. I think I saw BJ Jones tweet out that it was the second largest attended, but you were there. And I know you were going to get into a story this morning on Doc's recap show, but obviously time wouldn't let us get into it. But hey, guess what? Sounds like a sports wrap story. So go ahead and break down what you were going to tell us about how your day started getting to the stadium.
Oh my God. Where do I begin? I actually, let's see, left the hotel around 4:30-ish or so, 4:15, 4:30. Start off with, I left my hotel key in the room, the little key card.
Oh, okay.
Normally that's no problem because you can go back and get one of those, except because the hotel that I was in downtown Atlanta, you need your key card in order to get out of the parking lot. So I have.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I can't go back upstairs. So now I have to get in the line in the hotel lobby to get a new key card, so that I can get out. Okay,
wow,
that's just a minor hiccup though.
That's the appetizer, right? There you go.
Yeah. Driving to the stadium, and it's not like I haven't been in Atlanta and not frequent in Atlanta, but somehow I missed my doggone turn. So instead of going south, I'm going north out of downtown, heading towards Georgia Tech by mistake because I missed my one turn.
Bad.
Eventually, I get back on 75, and from downtown Atlanta to the stadium, baby. There may have been 3 to 4 miles. Of course, traffic on the way to the stadium, traffic around the stadium. Finally and then I get off one exit shorter than what I should have. Following the GPS, I should have went down one additional exit, which would have put me on the side of the stadium where the media parking lot was at. Instead, I'm on the other side of the stadium and have to ride through all of the traffic to get to the media parking lot. Gave me the opportunity to see the different stuff that was going on, but that's what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get to the stadium.
So what? You must not have got to the stadium until like what, 6 o'clock?
No, I got there a little bit after 5. By the time I parked and got there, that wasn't bad. Now here's the problem. I literally had to walk around the entire stadium because no one could tell me where the media entrance was at. It was like, go that way. This person sent me the gate. I was parked at near gate 3. Had to go to gate 4 to pick up my credential. Then they told me you got to go around to gate 5. Well, gate 5 is all the way around on the other side of the stadium. Then they tell 5. They tell you go down to 6. 6. They told me to go down to 7. 7 told me to go back to 6. And then somebody finally said, "Yeah, it's that door right there." Well, why did somebody just tell me that?
That little side door right there
door
next to the gate.
That little glass door. And then you get up, and then there's no sign anywhere in the stadium telling you where the media. First of all, the young lady told me, "Yeah, you see that over there? That's where you're gonna be at." So this is the old baseball stadium, correct? I would have come in old center field and had to get to home plate.
Home plate, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
got the
I
visual.
had to, okay.
Because
So walking all the way around the stadium.
center field, yeah. That's where the street is. The road that's right there by that entrance, yeah.
Correct. And the press box was in the old home plate area.
Oh my goodness!
So
nice.
Yes, you had to walk, and then I'm on the wrong level and can't find an elevator or steps to take me to the proper level to get to. So then you get there, you get settled. 15 minutes before kickoff, lightning. They pulled the players off the and actually you couldn't see the lightning, but they had the lightning meters. So and NCAA rules, if it's within 8 miles, you have to clear the field and clear the stands. So that happens. 91 minutes after kickoff, we finally kick off. Original kickoff was 7:07. We kicked off at 8:38.
And there were how many lightning? There were what, 3 or 4 delays through the course of that game?
Yes, the first quarter took an hour and I want to say an hour and 40 minutes for the first quarter.
My God! And so I mean, by the time you left out of there, it was about what, 1:30, 1-ish, something like that.
The game was officially called at 1:18.
With time still on the official game clock, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
With 2 minutes and 12 seconds, I believe, on the game clock. It was official. Now they had sent the players to the locker room before that, but we got the word in the press box at 1:18 that the game was called. By the way, Brian, sidebar, new record for the BXWAC Challenge: 5 hours and 40 minutes, longest game ever played.
Nice. Congratulations. Well, hey, they still had a great crowd, it sounds like.
But you really couldn't tell. Because after the first rain, people were slow coming back into the seats. And then and on TV, you really couldn't tell because there were the suite area was full. When I say full, the suite area was full.
Shouldn't surprise anybody. Atlanta, folks got to be in the suites. Yeah. So,
and I mentioned this on
cool.
Dr. Cavil this morning. There were more Alabama State people in the suites than Howard people in the suites.
Nice.
You would think it would have been the other way around.
Well, hey, look, them Alabama State folks, they spend money. They excited. It's the kickoff to the Robinson era. And Coach Eddie Robinson really the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first official season for their athletic director as well.
First full season.
First full season for the AD, and the name escapes me right at the moment, but I know if you
Dr.
know
Jason Cavil.
Cable. Okay, that's right. I knew Travion Scott. He's at Grambling. I knew he wasn't. So it's Cable is at Alabama State. That's who was in my head, but I knew he wasn't at Alabama State. And then it was the debut and the kickoff of the D. Davis era as well. And this is how I know the game was so late. I'm looking at Alabama State website, bamasports.com, where they've got a great picture of Dr. Cable. You've got Eddie Robinson there with the trophy in the locker room. And if you go take a look, this is how late it was. When they put the website together, somebody's got I hate to do this. I find it funny, and I'm only mentioning this because of how late the game was. They got the Howard logo next to the line that says 23 Alabama State, and they got the Alabama State logo next to the 13 that says Howard. Everything else is right, but they got the logos mixed up. So that's how you know it was a late night for the SID and everybody, because it was posted at like 12:25, late night. But anyway, the final score, Alabama State 23, Howard 13. I was wrong, Drew. I was wrong. I thought Howard was the team that was going to come in with the more experience, with the bigger offensive line. And from what I saw, Alabama State has inserted themselves into the discussion in this SWAC East discussion. What are your thoughts on the game and what you saw?
Don't let that Howard offensive line fool you. That Howard did outrush Alabama State in that game by about 20 yards, although you couldn't see it. What disappointed me was Howard, who had the number 2 passing offense in the BAC last year, could not complete a pass. It seemed like they left 3 touchdowns out on the field easily. Two of those wound up being field goals. One of them wound up being a missed field goal. So, and then there was another drive that they were driving that they left. I thought they left a touchdown out there on the field. Other thing, Brian, was momentum. Howard had all the momentum before the rain delay in the first quarter. After that, I think maybe, I don't know if E-Rob was nervous or what, but I think after that, and he went in and came back out, that was a different Hornet team than we had seen before that. The Hornets only had 1 first down, and I believe that was on a scramble.
When I look at those numbers, Quentin Williams, who now here's the thing about Quentin Williams. I think, yes, he's played 2 years, but really he's only played 7 games in each of those. He plays a true freshman. He played last year, but he only played in 7 games. So really, he only has, when you talk about the experience, he really only has maybe one full season and a couple games of total time under his belt. And really, if you factor in the fact that there was a COVID year in between, a couple of those seasons, you came in expecting a little bit more from him. I think he was 17 of 32. So as you said, you're missing about 15. You have 15 incompletions compared to 17 completions and an INT. He was sacked twice, no touchdown passes. The running game, nobody rushed for more than 39 yards. That was the high. And then when you go to the flip side, D. Davis was 16 of 23, 184, 1-1, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. He ran 9 times for 51 yards. He too was sacked twice. But I think what I'm hearing from a lot of people who watched the game and who were there is the playmaking ability of D. Davis is what got a lot of people excited.
Yes. He made plays. teams are going to have to probably implement some type of spy system on him. He was that good, and let's be real, he kept Alabama State in the game until Alabama State was finally able to figure it out. Defensively, Alabama State played great. Howard played great on defense. That was probably the best player on the field on yesterday. So henceforth, he was able to lead his team to the victory. But this game was, even though it was a 10-point game, the game was a lot closer than it appeared.
Hey, I like Chuck Hunt just said. So, he said Eddie Robinson had to be shown how to work the headset. You got to be kidding me, really? That's interesting. I don't know if he's joking. I don't know if he's joking there or he's being real. But that's kind of funny. But hey,
That's hilarious.
Congratulations to Alabama State. I know they look. Hornet Nation has to feel really good about finding a quarterback. And there's another SWAC school that also seems to have found a quarterback in the SWAC East, and that's FAMU, transitioning over to FAMU's game versus North Carolina. Yeah, the Moose is loose, and look, for obvious reasons, Matt Hasselbeck, I love him, former Colts backup. I listen to him in a lot of places. Very smart guy. I enjoyed listening to him on the broadcast. But Jeremy Musa, who got the start over Rashawn McKay, who was last year's starter for FAMU, he made some great throws, great timing. The ball. I'm going to go back to what I was on the field for spring game, and I'll tell you, Drew, I thought Rashawn McKay was going to start because of the loyalty factor. But the one thing that I go back to thinking about from spring, watching the decision-making from Musa compared to McKay, and watching how Willie Simmons, I don't want to say he didn't coach, but he didn't give too many post play or any in-game critique and comments to Musa. I think a lot of people will go back and say, oh, his first pass in the spring game was an INT. Well, again, I watched that film. The INT wasn't all his fault, okay? So with that said, after that, though, his reads and everything, and the ball just comes out of his hands so fast that I had all kinds of people texting me like, yo, FAMU's got a quarterback. And they were like, I kept replying back and say, yeah, I know. This is the guy that that I think is going to make some noise, and is why FAMU has a lot of optimism. And they really showed their grit and determination with all of the things going on and the distractions with the certification stuff. Just the throws. It was top-level throws and plays. The offense, it's funny, Drew, of all things, the offense looked better than the defense. And coming into the game, now obviously the defense is missing a few guys, but the offense looks surprisingly good at this point in the year, right?
Well, I would agree with you, Brian, but I'm gonna have to take your word for it, because obviously I did not get back to the hotel in enough time to see the game, and because of all the weather and everything we had going on in Atlanta, we had internet issues, so I was not able to follow it along in the press box. So I will take your word for it.
And Tamara T says FAMU was in the house last night. Hopefully, Tamara, I saw a good speckling of orange amongst that Carolina blue in the crowd. I know they had FAMU kind of and the band off to the right, so really you couldn't see them, except when that first touchdown from Musa to AJ Davis, you kind of had a feeling that, okay, that was the FAMU section over there by the band. But even in some other parts in the lower level, there were some speckles of orange in some clusters, which stands out amongst the Carolina blue. I was just really impressed with the way we showed up, and we'll talk about some of the other stuff maybe later. If you want to hear some of our comments, go back and listen to Saturday's BCSN Game Time show, as Drew, myself, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Jamie Walker, and Roy Evans kind of talked about some of the issues and the headlines that just kind of made that day. So let's take a break because on the other side we've got our good friend Charles Edmond coming on to talk with us, and he's got to be excited, or at least I'm curious, Drew, how excited Alcorn State fans are after watching Stephen F. Austin get bludgeoned to death on TV. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So we'll talk to him about Alcorn State's big week one, and we'll kind of recap the two SWAC teams that played yesterday on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your fam.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
I want you to get the vaccine because I want you to be...
Now, good friend Charles Edmond, Charles of Alcorn State Sports Radio. The Braves are taking on Stephen F. Austin in week one. And, we'll get into, I guess I don't know where we want to start, Charles. You mentioned something about eating crow, so I'm always open for letting people eat first before we before we start talking. So what's going on, Charles? What do you got to say?
Man, you know what? I'm really, and I'm glad to say this, and I'm happy to say this. Really quite excited based on what I saw yesterday, last night. We just started in Chapel Hill. You and I talked last Monday, and I gave a score of 59-10. That was the score I had, and I just thought that at some point the Carolinas was going to wear down you just to get up to 83 versus The 85 versus the 63, 85 sky, all that stuff. And I have to say, I'm really proud to be a SWAC supporter in just the way that FAMU, 28, 29 hours before kickoff, you find out that you got 20 some players that are ineligible for whatever reason, certification, eligibility, whatever the case, they don't make the trip. They're not. I mean, that, when you have that happen as a coach, you prepare all summer for something like this, and then all of a sudden you find out that you got 20 some players that you're not going to have against an FBS team of that sort. That is disconcerting to say the least. But you have to give FAMU a lot of credit for playing with a lot of guts, a lot of pride, a lot of determination, up and down the line in that program, starting with Willie Simmons, players, coaches, trainers, everyone on that field last night played with a lot of heart. And when you look at it, you just look at the game. I mean, FAMU had opportunities. I mean, a late turnover in the first half led to a touchdown. And then just looking at the numbers, FAMU give up touchdown drives of 21, 27, and 44 yards. You cannot give a team, I don't care how good you are or how bad you are, you can't give a team short field. Granted they were missing some players. You cannot do that against anyone. Anyone in the SWAC, you can't do that and expect to have positive results. But nonetheless, I thought the defense got off the field at times. Late turnover hurt. And this quarterback, Musa, really was impressive. Stood in the pocket, extended some plays. Obviously, getting his first start, there was a little nerves there. But, scored 24 points. You couldn't get anything done in the fourth quarter. I think the depth and I think mentally they were probably worn down a bit, physically too, going to that fourth quarter. And that kind of what happens when you're playing these type of games, when you play it up like that. So all in all, I have to eat a little crow and say, hey, I was wrong. I was wrong in terms of, especially considering what happened 24 hours for the game. Just the fact that they stepped up, they played with a lot of grit and gut and determination and heart. I was really proud of Willie Simmons in that program. I was wrong, and I don't have a hard time saying that, but I'm happy because of the fact that now I think FAMU can move forward. Big game coming up this week. You don't know how many of these guys you'll have back coming up to Jackson State. You're going to need some of those guys. If Land's going to be there, going to be ready. But I do think if they play with that type of energy, cut down some of the turnovers and mistakes, I think that's going to be a heck of a football game in Miami minus the players. We'll see.
Yeah, great point. I'll tell you, maybe outside of us true faithful, thought that FAMU would be in this ball game by 35-24 is what the Rattlers were trailing going into the start of the fourth quarter. That had to be the shocker. And then look, maybe we ran out of gas there in the fourth quarter. Maybe the defensive guys ran out of gas. I mean, you give up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and that factors in. What I'm curious about, obviously, you've seen a lot in the SWAC, and 2 things that stand out about the conversation about compliance. And one is that I think there was an article that came out from North Carolina's athletic director, who stated that the late notice of the late notice of certifications is not uncommon on the university level. I mean, he mentioned his program even having that late certification. And so it was like, okay, well, that's nice to know that is not uncommon, because now I know FAMU dealt with this last year before the OBC. There were guys who weren't eligible before the OBC, and then we've had other instances in other years. From what you've seen in the SWAC, I mean, let me rephrase the question, because I guess what do you hear? How do you prevent this? Is there a way to prevent it? How, from what you've seen, how does Alcorn State deal with this? And have you guys had an issue that reared its head hours, days before kickoff of the first game?
I have not heard of any Alcorn players, to my knowledge, not being certified, 24 hours, 30 hours for a kickoff of a game, or 24 hours before a basketball game, or whatever the case. I have not heard that. It may be, but it didn't get to me. It didn't get down to the bottom of the barrel level where I am. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in a sense because, and I just think the whole compliance certification issue is something that we have to talk about at our level, HBCU levels. And I saw an article or I saw a tweet in terms of our HBCUs, how many people are actually in that office to help certify student athletes in compliance. And the most I saw was 3 or 4 at the high end, and there's like a dozen schools that have 3 or 4, and the lowest is 1. There's some schools that only have 1 according to the article. And that's tough because you're talking about 200 student athletes, football, 14 sports, and that's a tough deal. It really is. And it's not just something that, quality and quantity. You want to have a bunch of people handling these type of things, but then you also want to have people that are certified. What I was told is that even to be able to certify student athletes, you have to be certified yourself in certain areas to be able to do that type of thing. And I remember Roman Banks was on Carlos Brown's show a couple of months ago, and I was on with him, and he talked about you just can't pull somebody from the admissions office and make them into that area.
Excuse me.
There has to be some certifications and qualifications in place to be able to do those types of things. So I do think that it's an issue and it's a challenge from a finance standpoint, perhaps in hiring a bunch of people, the certifications and qualifications and paying the type of salaries, the quality and the quantity of people. So to answer your question, I have not heard anything of that sort at all, Corn. But I think, as they say, quiet as it's kept, it's probably done a lot. It's probably happening a lot more, and probably a lot of stuff is happening at the 11th hour too, in terms of getting these players certified and getting them above board to get them on the field. I mean, literally, 12 hours, 20. Because I guarantee you, some of these folks working in compliance and certification are probably working all night to make sure these things get done, get these players on the field. So, unfortunately, it was Florida A&M. Unfortunately, it was 20 players. Unfortunately, it was 24 hours before their first game. And I just think it's just so unfortunate. Hopefully they can get it all worked out. I've just, based on the people I've talked to that kind of know how these things go, it's easier said than done in terms of certification. There are a lot of reasons why players aren't certified, grades, getting paperwork in. And it's a lot. And, I think if we really know how it works, we'll realize that it is a lot to do for 1, 2, 3, or 4 people, however many are in the office. It's just a lot for some almost 300 student athletes.
I'm sorry, Brian. I got choked up when he said you can't move anybody from like financial aid over to the compliance office or academic advisement office. Yeah, I've heard of somebody doing that. I'm just going anyway. uh, not to beat up on FAMU because I'm gonna say that for Kofi on Wednesday on the ONG Strike Zone because I know just go ahead and kill the first segment, Brian. Make sure you don't have any guests the first hour because Kofi's gonna take the first 30 minutes of it on Wednesday. But I know it's kind of tough for the fall sport athletes because some of them are just getting back, even though they report to campus a little bit earlier than others. Well, let me back up. No, it's not. Because it's not like the people who are certifying report at the same time as students. These people are on 12-month contracts usually, the people who are working in compliance and academic advisement for the students. So they're on 12-month contracts. These football players have been on campus, like Alcorn, they've been on campus since when, Charles? Last week of July? Like
July
last
the
2-3
5th.
days of July?
July the 5th was their first day reporting. Their first day of camp was July the 5th for the summer, and then going into the fall. So they've been on campus.
So these people have been there. There's no excuse for dropping the ball, and I'm curious to find out if they waited to the last minute or was rushing trying to get stuff done at the university level. And by the time they sent it to Indianapolis, which is where the NCAA office is at, that person wasn't, you know, you're not priority. You said this to me at the last minute. I'm not gonna work hard to get your player certified because you're sending this to me at the last minute. Just kind of curious about that because, like you said, Charles, it is a process, and unfortunately, part of that process when you get to limited resource institutions, there's that one person who decides to go on vacation, who you need an authorization or a signature from, that's gone at the wrong time. So I'm just wondering if these were some of the underlying issues with the stuff at Florida A&M University.
Well, I kind of, in thinking about the whole certification process, because there are paperwork that goes back and forth and back and up and down and sideways. It's kind of like you filing your taxes and looking for a refund. If there's some paperwork missing, if it's a W-2 missing, if you got 2 jobs or 3 jobs and you must have those W-2s into the IRS because you're shorting yourself and the IRS some income, you're probably not going to get that refund until they get that document. So I kind of, and I may be stretching this a little bit, but I'm kind of comparing it to the same type of thing. The NCAA requires some stuff, and I know a lot of stuff can be done on campus. The processes can be probably better on campus. But some of this stuff, and I think Willie Simmons might have referred to it, as a student athlete, even though you have people watching student athletes to make sure they go to class and making sure they stay eligible, at some point, as a student athlete or as a student, you got to take care of your own business too. And I'm not saying that was the case for all 20 players. I don't know if it was certification, because I was told by somebody yesterday that there's one thing if you're not certified, it's another thing if you're not eligible. So if you're not eligible, that means what? That means something you might not have done, maybe in the classroom or otherwise. Certification, that's an office that handles that. And, I don't know if you remember, several years ago, Southern University kind of went through the same thing. Southern
About
University had
13, 14, something like that.
yeah, Southern had over 100 players that were not certified. It was major stuff. And they wound up whittling it down and working it down, and there wound up being some sort of settlement. And then Southern went on about their way. NCAA went their way, and everything was fine. So, I mean, it's been worse cases, but I think it's convoluted. And I don't know if we'll get the answers from the AD or the president. I don't know if we'll get the true answers in terms of how the ball was dropped, who dropped it, and how. I don't know. And so for me, I just hope that the certification issues get resolved, because you hear reports, and Brian, you probably know this, could be up to 4 games. Some of them they're trying to get ready for Jackson State this week. Others done for the season. I don't know. I guess I'll be following it like everybody else. But you need to have your full complement of players, because there's a lot of excitement down there in Tallahassee for this upcoming season, considering went to the playoffs last year, and you got. And I'll say this, I've been saying it all summer, the AMU's got to win this game Saturday against Jackson State, because if they don't, they might not get to where they want to be, despite minus however many players. So, we can go inside the weeds in terms of what goes on in these compliance offices and all of that. That's a whole nother show for another day, another topic. But I'm just glad that they performed at a high level for as long as they could, and hopefully going forward, they'll get some players back, and we might see a really good competitive game against Jackson State.
Hey, Brian, before we get off this subject, I got one last question. Isn't this one of the issues that stopped Florida A&M in 2004 or 2005 from going to the FCS, when they were trying to go FCS in the early 2000s? Wasn't compliance one of those issues that, along with the other NCAA violations, but wasn't that one of the violations and one of the things they discovered during the self audit?
Not well. Okay, so that's the year. If you're referring to the year, the transition year where FAMU was supposed to be going to FBS.
Right.
Well, in previous years, you could go to FBS and still play FCS, and there'd be no penalty, which is exactly what Jacksonville State, and we'll talk about, that's the opponent that Stephen F. Austin played, Charles. But Jacksonville State apparently is going through that, where they're slated to go FBS, but they're able to. And I read and I saw this. I don't know. I hate to say I saw it on Twitter, but somebody has stated they have 85. They have 85 scholarships, but they're still playing an FCS schedule. But a lot of people aren't ranking them in FCS because of that. They are. I don't think they're playing for conference titles. So that was what FAMU was going to be going through, and that is why. And this, I heard Vaughn Wilson bring this up, so I got to give credit to Vaughn Wilson. HBCU Game Day now is where he's working. He's working with those guys. I heard him mention this. This is what happened to Willie Simmons back in that year, because the fact that the NCAA did not allow FAMU to play as an FCS team, they instantly made all of the guys like Willie Simmons and others who were coming to FAMU to automatically be ineligible or have to wait a year. Because remember, at that time, when you transferred, you had to wait a year. You had to sit a year. So he was coming from Clemson to FAMU, and if we would have still been FCS or 1AA, he would have been able to play instantly. But once the NCAA reversed course and made FAMU a Division I or FBS, and didn't give that waiver, and I don't know why that didn't happen. There's another story there. Instantly, Willie, 2 weeks before the start of the season, who had been in camp practicing, Coach Joe was really excited about Willie Simmons, all of a sudden had to leave FAMU and find somewhere to play in that moment. So, as Vaughn Wilson brought up, imagine him. I mean, this is happening almost 20 years to what happened to him. So I know he was I know he felt some kind of way.
He was in his feelings.
He had to be hot, 38, and know that how it affected him, and then to see the guys that he's coaching and not really know how this situation is going to play out, whether you're losing guys for the year or a game. I mean, this is a game, a get money game, as he told everybody. This is a game that guys were supposed to get checks. Isaiah Lamb, B.J. Bowler, two guys who didn't play. The film that you will see in February about these guys would have come from this game. And so for them not to be – so, yeah, to answer your question, Drew, I think that I think it's a different type of certification, but their issue is more related to what the NCAA did in reversing course to them, to FAMU. Yeah. And thus it affected them, their eligibility, right? Yeah.
All right.
Hey, let's get it, Charles. Let's talk about week 1 here. Alcorn State, Braves Nation had to be, I don't know whether you had to be excited or nervous watching Stephen F. Austin get mollywopped the way they did by Jacksonville State. I'm already out there. I think somebody already posted, I saw this in the chat room, the SWAC is 1-0. 1-0 against FBS schools. The MEAC is 0-1. So it's like, hey, already here we are, right? So we've already I think it's something to that effect. Charles, what's the excitement level? Does the alarms go off, or what's the thought here after watching Stephen F. Austin? And what can we expect from the Braves on Saturday?
I think fans were a little nervous prior to that Jacksonville State Stephen F. Austin game, but after watching the game, and I saw a little bit of it, I think Stephen F. is a team that can be had. Kind of like North Carolina, Stephen F. just kind of disappeared in the second half. They were shut out in the second half. They only had 70 rushing yards yesterday. Their quarterback was sacked 3 times. So the Braves defense, by the way, they had a scrimmage yesterday, and I think the defense won the day. So if the defense can pick up where it left off throughout the course of fall camp and get after it next week at home, I think we have a shot against Stephen F. Austin. So I think Braves Nation is really excited about this game. Up front in the trenches, that's where it's got to happen. And Stephen F. is they're not a bunch of shrimps out there. They are really a big team, and I think that's something we'll have to deal with. But I think, that long trip to Montgomery for Stephen F. and having to come to Alcorn a little bit different. You're a little bit on skates, but shut out in the second half. And, hey, I think for the Braves, they got a good dose of what we can expect, from based on what Stephen F. did yesterday. I think we're excited. We got one of the longest home field winning streaks in the FCS, and we want to keep that thing going, man. We want to keep it going. A good way to start the season. So got good intel on Stephen F. and I'm ready to kick it off Saturday at 6:00.
All right. Hey, Charles, can I pick your sportscaster brain?
Sure.
All right. That Stephen F. game was affected by weather. The Florida Memorial Edward Waters game was affected by weather. And of course, we know the BX Challenge was affected by weather. So I need some advice from you. You're in the radio booth in this situation. Rain before the game, rain during the middle of the game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you do and what do you talk about to keep the people engaged, or do you just kick it back to the studio and hope that they don't turn you off?
Well, eventually you do. Eventually you do during that 30-minute delay. Eventually you do kick it back to the studio. But what you do is you always recap the action, and then you just kind of build it from there, because fans might tune in late. They might not know what has happened. They might not know how it's happened. So you had several delays in that game in Atlanta. I mean, it was 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many delays was it. 5? It seemed like
There were 3. There was a kickoff was 91 minutes late, but the delay started 20 minutes before kickoff. Then you had another 45-minute delay in the first quarter, and then of course the one at the end of the game, which ultimately led to the game being called at 1:18 in the morning to make the total game time 5 hours and 40 minutes from kickoff. But if you add in the time from when the game was supposed to have kicked off, you were at 7 hours and 13 minutes from the scheduled kickoff.
Well, I can relate to that, because probably a decade ago we played UAPB in a similar weather situation. The game was delayed 4 hours and 40 minutes. 4 hours. It was one delay after another, after another, after another. One lightning strike here, one lightning here. 4 hours, and they eventually called the game at like 11:30 at night. The game was eventually called. It was no contest. So I get, and I felt for everyone that was in that stadium. But to answer your question, all you can do really is recap. You see people up in the press box that you can talk to doing interviews, because you're really trying to kill 30 minutes in hope that you can resume action in 30 minutes. But if there's another lightning strike, you got to tack on another 30 minutes. So now you go from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. That's when you have to eventually send it back to the studio. I mean, there's so much you can, because you don't know if there's going to be another 30 minutes after that. So you can probably get through the first 30, but then when you got it back to back, or it happens 2 or 3 times, then you eventually have to send it back to the studio. You eventually have to talk about the game eventually, but you got to send it back there as well. So it's a really tough thing to deal with. I've dealt with it many a time. I had a 9-hour baseball rain delay one time, and it's brutal. Yeah. It's
You
tough.
said delay, not
really,
the game. That was just the delay. Wow.
the delay was not the conference baseball game that we needed, and so our coach at the time, Beard Ray, was determined to get the game in. He set his field on fire to dry the dirt so he can be able to play. From 9-hour delay, from 12:30 when the game was halted, we picked it up at 9:30 that night. We finished around midnight. That was a game we had to have Brian Fulford. We had to get it in somehow, some way.
And couldn't come back tomorrow. And one of those couldn't back tomorrow games.
It is tough. It's tough to continue to kill time. You can talk about only so much. You can give scores. You can give recaps of other games. But at some point, when you see that you're not going to be playing for a while, you eventually have to send it back to your affiliates, and then you tell them what time you're coming back. You recap again, and then hopefully you'll be ready to play football. That's kind of the way I've always looked at it.
All right, Charles, before we get you out of here, let's go through some picks. Let's get some thoughts on some of the SWAC action going on here in week 1. Obviously, we won't, we've heard a little bit of your analysis regarding the Alcorn State Stephen F. Austin game, which Alcorn host. That'll be 6 Eastern, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, right there in at Alcorn, and so that'll be a big game. So here we go. Starting on Thursday, we've got Alabama A&M traveling to UAB. That is an 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central on CBS Network. Who do you like in that contest?
Well, I want to add a little caveat to our Alcorn game. It does say on our schedule ESPN Plus, but the game will not be on ESPN Plus. I was in a meeting on Wednesday just to kind of, I was told by their SID that the game wasn't going to be on Plus, and it was confirmed to me the other day. So the game will be on Alcorn Sports streaming site. It won't be on ESPN Plus. That's the only game from our AD told me the other day. That's the only game that won't be on Plus. So just to kind of update fans on that. You know what? That
Is that
UAB.
a paper?
Oh yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Is that a paper? As a pay? Okay, it's a
yes.
pay-per-view. And if they want to listen to it, we'll give the plugs coming up if you want to listen to the broadcast online of your game. But okay, go ahead with Alabama A&M at UAB.
That's another one. Two schools 90 miles, 93 miles apart, Huntsville, Birmingham. That's one. If Alabama A&M's defense can hold fort and improve from what they were last year, Glass is gone. It's going to take a little bit of time. The continuity is, as Jamie Walker mentioned several weeks ago, into the continuity with coaches and players and quarterbacks and in different positions. If A&M can kind of pick up where they left off offensively, I think they'll put a scare in the UAB. I do think, though, UAB will win the game, and so I am going with UAB. But I think Coach Maynard will have his team ready. Just a matter of, with this dynamic offense, who will be the signal caller.
Right. I want to see whether Bulldog Nation will show up. Will they? Drew, isn't that what you said last week? You thought they would outnumber UAB fans? Wasn't that what you said?
Till I found out it was a Thursday night game. I skipped over the fact that it was a Thursday night game. If it was a Saturday game, I would definitely say Alabama A&M might. You have more Bulldogs and Blazers in the stands. But with that being a Thursday night game, the only thing that may make this game attractive for Bulldog fans is because you have the holiday weekend. If people could get Friday off from their job, they might go to that game on Thursday evening and make it a long 4-day weekend.
That's what Bulldog Nation should be encouraged to do. Also on Thursday night, Mississippi Valley State travels to Tarleton. Tarleton just moved into the FCS ranks. That game is 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ESPN Plus. Charles, can Valley get one for the SWAC?
I think so. I mean, Valley's my surprise shocker in the East. I think Valley could very well push for that number 3 seed in the East. They only won 3 games last year. The expectation is that with a new AD and all those processes involved there, you can't win 3 games again. And I do think with the defense that they had, I think they just had a healthy quarterback. And I think if they get manageable quarterback play, a good running game, I do think they'll give Tarleton a run for their money. I saw Tarleton's stadium, by the way. I think they have a new stadium over there, upgraded stadium. I saw the pictures on social media. Really nice facility there. I do think, though, Tarleton will probably win it, a little bit more depth. But I do think Valley could possibly take them to the brink.
All right, jumping into Saturday, gonna move forward here so I don't hold you up here. Grambling State traveling to Arkansas State. Arkansas State was 2-10 last year. That game is 7 Eastern on ESPN3. That's 7 Eastern, 6 Central. We're still waiting to find out who Grambling State's quarterback is going to be, but what do you think?
I think that, until we know that, Grambling, from what I was told, had 6 quarterbacks on the roster. Hugh Jackson's keeping it close to the vest. He's not saying a whole heck of a lot. That's probably a good thing for other teams because you don't know what Grambling's going to bring. I think it's probably the same thing that with Florida A&M in North Carolina. I do think Hugh Jackson knows how to get the best out of the quarterback position. I think Grambling will score some points, but I do think their defense has got some work. I think, Arkansas State probably pull. And I'm a Grambling grad. I want to see it a close game, but I kind of mirror that game kind of like FAMU in North Carolina. Maybe 56-24, something like that. That's kind of a score I have in mind. But I just think the depth, first game coach, new personnel, new quarterback, that continuity, I think come fourth quarter it could be tough. I'm pulling for these guys, by the way, but we're just giving my prediction in terms of what I think is going to happen deep down in my soul as a SWAC grad and alum. I want to see our teams do well and win some of these games because I think it's important. But just if I had to bet some money, which I don't have, but if I did, I would bet on I would bet on Arkansas State.
I can't imagine why coaches are being secretive when nobody has film on these quarterbacks. Why are we being so secretive? I don't know. Superstition, I guess. The Labor Day Classic in Houston, Texas Southern, Prairie View A&M. That will be 7 Eastern, 6 Central, ESPN Plus. Who do you like there?
I really like Body. Last year he was a freshman. There were times in which he looked like a freshman. Bad turnovers, couldn't hold on to the football. But when he was upright and could make plays and extend plays, his athleticism really showed out just being a freshman. He's a year older, a year wiser. You see him on social media with all the work he's putting in. With Prairie View, with Coach McDowell, you just don't know. I'm going with Texas Southern in this one. That game's at Prairie View, by the way, and I didn't know that till a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was still in Houston, where they used to play that game every year in Houston. It's at Prairie View.
Oh, really?
But I'm going. Yeah, the game's at Panther Stadium. Yeah, I didn't know that either. Labor Day Classic, you're thinking NRG, you're thinking Compass, but it's at Prairie View. So I'm going with Texas Southern. I do believe Body will be the surprise that a lot of people are looking for.
Now, that's one of 2 conference matchups in the SWAC. So we talk about games that matter right off the bat. Week 1, there it is, Texas Southern Prairie View, that matters. And then the other one, of course, the Orange Blossom Classic in Miami Gardens, right there in South Florida. They call it the Remix. Last year might have been Game of the Year. I don't think it was, but it was a close game, 7-6. Jackson State won it. Jackson State ran off the 7 more in the SWAC. Ended up being Black College National Champs, even though they lost in the Celebration Bowl. FAMU goes to the playoffs. Charles, FAMU, Jackson State. What are your thoughts?
After watching FAMU last night, and I know on paper a lot of people probably think it's Jackson State in a runaway. After watching FAMU's performance last night and just the confidence and momentum that they've got, considering they were minus 20 plus players, I think FAMU is going to win this game. I think they found their quarterback in Musa. He looked very poised. He wasn't rattled. The bad turnover at the end of the first half hurt. But I think if they can put some points on the board like they did yesterday and force that Jackson State offense, Shedeur Sanders a year older, a year wiser, we'll see how defenses scheme on him. I'm going to go with Florida A&M. If they were at full throttle and they lost 70-0 yesterday and they lost some players, I'd go with Jackson State. But some of this is me being a Willie Simmons fan too, knowing him personally when he was here at Alcorn. I like Willie Simmons, good guy. And so a part of it is personal. I'm pulling for him. Nothing against Jackson State, but what I saw yesterday makes me believe that I think FAMU will be the underdog, and I think that will be enough to give them enough impetus and they want to prove that last year was a fluke too. So I do think I'm going with FAMU in this game. It's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be higher scoring than it was last year. It won't be 7-6. I'm going to say 27. I'm going to say 27-23 Florida A&M.
All right. We love it. Well, Charles, we appreciate your time this evening. Let people know where they can find the broadcast Saturday evening, what time you start your pregame show and all that.
You can find me. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter, Tall Man Radio on Twitter. Appreciate all the tweets and comments. On Facebook, Charles Edmond. And you can listen to the broadcast on WPRL.org. We're on TuneIn Radio, so you can go, if you have the TuneIn app, you can type in Life 91.7 WPRL and pull us up. And we'll be ready to rock and roll. Pre-game is 5:30 Central Time. Kickoff is 6 o'clock, and I'll be ready to rock and roll, man. I'm ready for some SWAC football, ready to talk about a lot of stuff. As they say, The teacher once said, ready to cuss and fuss. I'll take the cussing out of it. I'll just be ready to fuss. And so it should be a lot of fun. Yeah, last night's game really gave me encouragement in terms of how exciting the SWAC's going to be, because a lot of people felt like Eddie Robinson Jr.'s first game at Bama State, their defensive coordinator just started like yesterday, and yet that defense played. Am I wrong on that? They just hired their defensive coordinator.
No, it's been recent.
It's been recent, and I kind of felt that Alabama State would win the game, but I think just the lack of continuity. But that was a big win. I mean, who would have thought a first-year coach winning in the MEAC SWAC? I mean, so Alabama State, if they continue to play this way, they got a quarterback that can make it happen. Look out, because they're going to get better. And so I think you got to add Alabama State to that mix, of teams, FAMU, Alabama A&M. Now I think you got to add Alabama State in there. So that's going to make it even more exciting. So I'm looking forward to it all.
All right. Well, hey, good luck to the Braves, Brave Nation. I'm checking that one on the box. I've already said it. I've got Alcorn winning that one over Stephen F. Austin. Even regardless of that mollywop that they took on Saturday, the home advantage goes to the Braves. So thank you, Charles. I know we'll talk later on offline during the course of the week. Fred McNair's show, is that still happening? You're doing that on what day? Monday?
No, I'm looking at Thursday of this week. I'm looking at doing a Thursday show. We got back-to-back shows. I'm trying to get our athletic director, Noy Dido, on at 5 o'clock Central Time, and then Fred McNair at 6 o'clock on Thursday. And we'll be back on our regular Monday schedule starting next Monday on Labor Day.
There you go. Every school needs a Charles Edmond. If you don't have one, you need to let your athletic department know. He is at every game, broadcasting every game on radio. So you always, Brave Nation is blessed to have you, Charles.
They spoiled. Charles is spoiled.
They spoiled. Exactly. They spoiled.
Well, I am going to say this before I let you go. It's been a blessing and an honor to be doing Alcorn's games. And I have not missed an Alcorn football game in 31 years. I've missed a few basketball games, but 31 years in a row, I have not missed a football game, not a broadcast, not
Amen.
A postseason game. And so it is a blessing to be able to do this, and just the Lord's will to be able to continue to do this. It's really a lot of fun, especially now with you guys and Black College Sports Network and social media and just a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm just really blessed and thankful to be able to do this.
When you walk away, they're going to give you the golden microphone, Charles. That's all I'm going to say.
We pray the streak keeps going. You got 11-12 in you this year, Charles. So we pray the streak keeps going. So, hey, have a good broadcast, my friend. We'll talk later. We're going to take a break. Coming up on the other side, we got Dr. Kenyatta Cavil is going to join us. We'll get his reaction to Week 0 and get his official picks. Maybe he'll give us a few because he like to hold on to some for his show. But all right, we'll be back in just a moment on the BCSN SportsWrap.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
I want you to get the vaccine because I want you to be safe.
I don't want you to be a patient I take care of in the hospital. That's what I'm scared of. I hug you.
Yeah. Love you. Love you too.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
No better sound than hearing the 100 take the field. Man, that gets the juices going right there, Doc. I tell you
I mean, I
what,
know you
man.
missed a bit of Battle of the Bands, Doc, but we had to remind you about him since you
Yeah,
didn't get to see him
I was
yesterday.
impressed. I'm fortunate I got to see him last year a couple of times. They do what they do. They put in that work. Ain't no joke about the Martin 100. You can't
There is
hide that.
some.
You can't hide that.
No, you can't. You can't hide that. There's some great video out there on various. Obviously, you guys, if you check in on YouTube, there's some good stuff out there where Florida A&M they did the pregame, I believe, solo at North Carolina, and then they did a joint thing with North Carolina's band during halftime. So that was pretty cool. I mean, because look, I'm sure that had to be a real cool moment for the folks, the North Carolina band, and so I mean it was really cool to see that. Joining us right now, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, host of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Now you can find 3 times during the week, not only on the normal Tuesday and Thursday nights, but then early in the morning. So right as you're getting dressed and getting ready for church, you can go ahead and get that HBCU fix and catch up on the games that you missed. Doc, how did it feel waking up this morning, getting that post game reaction from week 0? How did it feel this morning?
That's when I knew it was real. This is one of the first times where my alarm did not get me up. I actually was, I guess, excited with anticipation and, woke up and then decided I looked at the clock and said, oh, I got a little time, but I'll go ahead and get up and prep, made sure the studio was ready to go, text a couple of people to make sure that they were still on point. Everybody was in there ready to go. So I think it just gives you some indication of the excitement everybody is having for this fall 2022 football season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Obviously, you guys, we encourage you to go check the content out, not only on Facebook, but you can find it on YouTube as well. A lot of great conversation with Doc, Charles, and Mike from the games. But quickly, let's just rehash what's a big takeaway from Week 0 for you. What's the biggest takeaway from the 3 games, or just from the Week 0 weekend?
I have three takeaways. First takeaway is first time coach um, gets it done. Eddie Robinson Jr. for Alabama State. They get it done in a game that many people look at the overall record, but they don't necessarily look at the last 4 years when the game has been 2-2. Obviously, last year was North Carolina Central. It was a major upset in most folks with in the polls that coming in had all 4 in top 10 HBCU program. And nobody was really thinking about Central. They did what they had to do and got that game, and then you back it up where Jackson State, in many people's eyes, is upset in the Celebration Bowl. So everybody kind of focuses on those 2 games instead of looking at the matchups for the MEAC SWAC, which over the last, 8 games, over the last 4 in terms of the MEAC SWAC Challenge, are actually even in terms of the overall play with the MEAC, which I've always tried to tell everybody that it's not really much difference between the 2 conferences in terms of head-to-head competition. One conference gets a little more buzz because I think the fans just have a longer standard of history. Football is just that important, whatever that's supposed to mean in this area. And then there are significant rivals that help push that stuff along in terms of what that looks like. So you tend to get a little more push from the SWAC, and you don't have to worry about SWAC fans bragging about themselves. That's why it fits so much with FAMU. When they joined in the conference, they do it as well in their own right, which is a good thing. But you don't necessarily see that in the MEAC, or at least that's not the way they brag. They like, the wins do the talking. So in a lot of ways, they've gotten the bigger wins, the ones that we would say count on national TV, if you would. And so that's why you kind of have that lean, and that's what you saw in this matchup. A lot of people saw Howard coming back. I mean, offensively, they did a lot last year that had people excited. Question mark on their defense. Obviously, it seemed like it kind of twisted in a different direction. The defense, if you would, kind of let them down. I mean, the defense actually stood strong, but the offense kind of let them down. They didn't perform as well as you might have thought offensively. Um, they stumbled in terms of opportunities. And when you do that with a team that is hungry, because you got to remember, Eddie Robinson Jr. stepped out there on the limb and said he wanted to reset the calibration for the SWAC against me. He thought that the SWAC was the preeminent conference and needed to be where it's supposed to be. And that's kind of, I mean, I would say it was feelings, but to put that out there so early, that could come back to hit you in the mouth in terms of talking trash if you don't back it up. They backed it up. And, the other thing in terms of that game is the quarterback play by Demetrius Davis, D. Davis, in terms of what he did. A lot of us in Texas, put that out there. We saw what he did in North Shore. People in Texas have a high aptitude in terms of what they believe football is, particularly at the 5 and 6A for the suburban area institutions. They put a lot of money in their programs and great stadiums. So football is high level over here. Now, it hasn't reflected in terms of the college teams, whether that's in HBCUs or the other historically white college universities, except for Prairie View and the run they made last year. You hadn't seen them rise to the level of the talent. But the talent has been going everywhere. And this quarterback went to Auburn, and everything, if you read a little bit, the style and how many Auburn fans really loved the guy, to me, spoke a lot. They wished him well when he left. And it was more of a coaching decision, changing of the coordinator, that the guy just wanted a different style of quarterback, a taller quarterback in the pocket. So it wasn't so much about him being in trouble or didn't have the ability to get on the field. It was just more of a different philosophy, which is where the portal really comes in. The other thing people don't realize is Eddie Robinson still resided in Houston. He traveled around, but he resided in Houston. There was a family-friend connection between the two. because actually it went down from Prairie View and Alabama State. Obviously, Alabama State was victorious. We'll see what that means for Prairie View because they do play each other. Now, Prairie View has their own Texas quarterback that went to a big-time program, Duncanville, which some people saw high school play with South Oak Cliff and Duncanville. That's where Travian Collins is from. I tried to tell a lot of people there are 4 strong starting quarterbacks that are out of the Texas high school area, which is going to be fascinating to see what that looks like when you add in Texas Southern's Andrew Body, and then obviously FCS Player of the Year, Freshman Player of the Year, Shador Sanders. So fascinating when you start looking at these hidden commentaries behind the scene. But to get back to the major point, that's another component that I thought with his play, just his ability to extend plays, make decisions, be crisp, especially for not playing for a couple of years now. So he's only going to get better the more that he's on the field, the more his players. And as you know, Alabama State gets a lot of their players not only from the state of Alabama, but the position players, they dig into Florida. They go over to Atlanta and Georgia. So they have skill positions. They just hadn't really had a signal caller that's been able to put it together. And now it looks like they have. Getting back to another signal caller, you got to look at FAMU in terms of Moose. I hear y'all grinning all over the place, talking about the Moose is loose. And rightfully so. Everybody thinks that FAMU was a quarterback away. Not to say nothing about McCain in terms of what he did. What he did last year, but he missed just a little something. And I'm sure he's going to get better. So the fact that you might even have multiple quarterbacks with the ability to play some games should be interesting. But when you talk about Musa going 28 for 38, 279, 7.3 carries against a very strong defensive front from North Carolina, they're going to be in the mix in the ACC. 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He looked relatively strong, and he's going to need that going up against a very good defensive side of the ball in Jackson State. It'll be interesting to see how many of those players will be able to become eligible next week as the paperwork is completed, which is a whole nother discussion. We can talk about that maybe later. And then, obviously, when we talk about our mid-majors, I think the statement that Florida Memorial made, especially the way they jumped out on Edward Waters, a lot of people were excited coming in the season thinking what Edward Waters would do. Now, they lost the athletic director, but still, head coach is there. But when you put all that together, I think people had the edge for Edward Waters. Now, they were on the road. Florida Memorial has talked all that noise, heard all that noise talked all year long. And they made sure that they let them know that they're not playing in Miami Gardens down there in Dade County. They talked about. I saw speed all over the field, which was amazing when you talk about that. So it should be an interesting season for both those programs. But shout out to the coaching staff of Florida Memorial and the president, Japhus Hadrick. You know, it's something about that Japhus first name that I like. He uses 2 F, I use 1, but we're kindred spirits, and he does know the family. So shout out and congratulations on the win. Those are the things that stood out for me yesterday in week 0.
Nice. Go ahead, Drew.
Dr. Cavil, we talk football with anybody, but you're the only one who we allowed to talk bands with because of the marching sport poll that you have put out over the last couple of years, which is why I specifically played the Florida A&M piece. Well, not really why I played it, but anyway, that's the story. That's my story, and I'm gonna stick with it.
Exactly.
But
I like that.
But you were at the Battle of the Bands yesterday there in Houston. For those who did not catch your show this morning, kind of recap the Battle of the Bands, the atmosphere, the actual on-field competition, and everything else that went on around that event there.
Credit to Deborah Weber. He's the CEO of Weber Marketing. He's put this together. It goes back to Charlotte. He's found a partnership in the city of Houston, and they love their bands around here, everywhere from high school, some of them even junior high. But you saw all types of family. He has it priced relatively right. Great venue, obviously, NRG Stadium. And last year it was basically on one side. He's opened it up. So tickets, when you went to Ticketmaster to check at about 4:00, 4:15 or so, the bottom ring was sold out, to give you some indication. And when you looked in there, you can see
About how
that.
many people is
Have to
that?
be
Not to
in
be
the
cutting you
suite
off.
area. Huh?
About how many people is in that bottom ring? Do you have any kind of general idea?
It feels about 40, but you got to remember when I say sold out, it's pretty much full from sideline to sideline. They put the bands in the end zone, and
Okay.
so they didn't sell
So
out
you
that.
probably
That was
losing about
included
10,
with the band.
15,000 right there.
Yeah, so you probably had about 25,000 in 2022, 25 in the lower ring, and then most of the upper ring that they were selling for, it was online sold out. Now, it wasn't what you would call a traditional sold out, meaning butts in every seat. But in terms of what they were selling, so I believe there were probably every bit of 40-some thousand people in there to watch this event. It looked really good. Bethune-Cookman took the house. They brought it. I know that's a little challenge. Y'all know they're good, but you're not as excited about me talking about the marching moves. Wildcats as other folks are, right? And that's respect. I understand it. But you just asked me what I saw. They took the show. They showed out, did what they had to do. They had the house. There was a section in there, and I look at my son, and I get a lot of it from my son because he's not really as biased. You know, what gets him excited, and he recognized really early because I kind of pointed in the corner, and there were folks in the section, upper deck level, where they put on their phones and had the lights like you at the concert. Where you see that, you had a section. It wasn't more than 2 or 3 minutes later where people picked on it. So the other side must have been doing it. And so the receptive side started doing it as well. And before you knew it, the whole side, just about every other person, I'll put it that way, had their lights on. And doing it and swaying to the music that they were playing when they played these chorus. So they really got fans in there, played music that folks galvanized to and worked. You talk about Southern. They're always strong. They do what they do in terms of the big time bands with a long history in sound, and they have that brass. So having a sound is not a problem with Southern, and they know how to exercise that and make sure they take advantage of it. So you hear them. Not only do they march really well, but in the stands they're gonna bring it, and that's where I would say that they did an excellent job in terms of the music selection and what they did in the sand. In terms of what they did on the field was solid. I would say it was a step below Bethune-Cookman. The other program that got a lot of house was Prairie View. And Prairie View's come from a long way, and it's one what many people would call a hidden gem. If you go west of the Mississippi, one of the best bands you're going to hear people talk about is Prairie View. And folks east of that Mississippi don't really realize that. But they get a lot of house around this. If they ever get to travel a little more, I'm sure they get more respect. When they went to the Honda Battle of the Bands before COVID, they shocked everybody in Atlanta and brought in the house. Well, they did it in Houston. They had an introduction that was second to none. They go with the PV, and it was resonated in there. Even other folks that were looking around, there would happen to be a guy that sat in front of me that was a Southern band person because he had an old Southern shirt that he put on. He kind of shook his head and dropped his head when Prairie View was playing because he understood that they brought the house. And that's when I knew that Prairie was up there. So that was pretty good. In terms of the smaller bands that I have to give some respect to, is Kentucky State. For a smaller band, not as known, they continue to wreck shop and upset folks. So that Kentucky State band did it. I looked the way they have the black suits, jackets, but a green, hat to signify that they were representing Kentucky State. They were really good. Some honorable mentions have to be Alcorn. They did really well in terms of what they did there, and so I would put them in my honorable mentions. But you had A&T there. I was surprised they didn't do as well as I thought. They had a nice show and represented Houston, but it just didn't seem to resonate with the crowd. You had Graham in there. They were pretty sharp, but not to what you see in terms of what Grambling can perform. Certainly as the world-renowned band, they just didn't resonate at a level that caught my eye, and I heard with the crowd. And that's what we do that's different in the marching sport. It's all about wins and losses. If you're going to call yourself a sport, which you got people talking about HBCU marching sport, you have to talk about the fact there's going to be wins and there's going to be losses. So in terms of the Alabama State Howard game, everybody that indicated, and saw some of the footage from back door, I have to say the Hornets do it again. And they probably were one of the most recognized bands that jumped up in the poll last year to surprise a lot of people because they went down to FAMU and got a little house. And nobody goes in to Tallahassee and get out. So you got to give them credit. So they continue to bring it, and so you got to do that. With that Florida Memorial and Edward Waters, I think Florida Memorial won it on both sides. They won the band as well as the game, so you got to give credit for another one of the mid-major bands. So it'll be interesting to see what the voters come in, but that's kind of what I saw. That's what I'll lead with, but we'll see what the voters say. We'll see what the numbers say. But again, the difference in the band marching sport that we put out there, it's not just going to be a fan participation. Just because you got a lot of fans around the country that like your band, that's not going to work for us. There's one thing that you got to do. You got to have participation. You got to march. You got to travel. You got to have competition. This is sports. You just can't sit up in the stands by yourself and play your music at a home game. And just because you big and cover up the whole field and got a large sound, a lot of brass, that don't mean anything in terms of competition. You got to bring it. You got to bring it on Saturday, on the field, at halftime, zero quarter, fifth quarter. You got to put your feet up. You got to blow the horns. You got to have the dancing women. You got to get the W. Wins, losses, and we call it like we see.
Preach, Doc. Preach. Hey, that's how great that competition is. Now, look, this is where we got to get to. I hope this, last year you kind of caught people because they're like, what is this thing Doc's doing? What is this competition thing? I hope this inspires bands to put their schedule out. When is the band? Because a lot of times, look, we really don't know. We kind of, because I know this from the Florida A&M when we ask Kofi all the time. Kofi, is 100 traveling? And Kofi will be like, yes or no. Why? But look, with other bands, look, we want a schedule. Is like, look, okay, I'm looking.
I want to know when you're going on the road.
Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely, Brian. Tell these folks. I want to know. Alabama A&M is coming to the Honda Battle of the Bands. They going to the National Battle of the Bands. They going to Mississippi Valley. Southern going to Jackson. I want to know. Prairie View going up for the State Fair Classic. The Ocean of Soul is going to face Southern, the Human Jukebox in Arlington. I want matchups between the bands. All this single band cheerleading, all this excitement that you coming to your home game. You supposed to do that. You supposed to cheer on your football team, your basketball team. That's not nothing for me to get excited about. You tell me when you bring in another band, are you traveling so that band can reciprocate the next year? That's what I want to see. If you're not traveling, I don't care how much expense it is. Go talk to your administrators and tell them to do some fundraising. Get the money. Get on the road and get some competition.
Well said, Doc. Well said. We gotta make sure we stay a week. We gotta stay ahead of this, Drew, and be paying attention to these matchups because we gotta call folks out. We gotta start calling people out 2 weeks in advance. So we need already. Week 1's coming up. We need to be looking at week 2 and 3 right now and saying, okay, coming up in week 2. Where are those HBCU matchups at? I know, Doc, you already mentioned the Jackson State, Tennessee State matchup. This week, let's see, we talk about the band matchups. This week, we've got, of course, we've got Howard Hampton. We've got Texas Southern Prairie View, Labor Day Classic, right? You got A&T Central. That's a matchup. And then you got FAMU, Jackson State, the 100 versus the Boom. So,
you're also gonna have Tuskegee, Florida, Fort Valley, in the Red Tails Classic.
Fort Valley, the Red Tails Classic.
Mid-major matchup.
I think we also have. Let's see. How about Delaware State, Lincoln, PA?
I don't know if both bands. Are both bands gonna be there?
I don't know, but see, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. We talking about bands being there, right?
They need to let us know. Are they gonna show up or not?
Exactly. Winston-Salem State versus Central State. That's happening in Canton, Ohio. Are both bands going to be there? Edward Waters
Usually with a classic
and
like
Clark
that, you're gonna
Atlanta.
get both bands.
Right. But that's what we want to see though. UAPB plays who's Lane?
Lane.
Is that Lane? Lane. Yeah, Lane.
Yeah.
So Alabama State and Miles. How about that one? That'll be a interesting one as well. So
You should get both bands there.
yeah. Okay, week one's coming up, Doc. Let's look ahead at this Labor Day Classic. Charles Edmond was talking and breaking it down for us that this game is going to be at Prairie View. So give the folks a little bit of the history. Obviously, you got ties to both schools, graduated from one, working at the other. So, I mean, I don't know what's you sitting on the 50-yard line or which way you're going to sit on one seat on one side of the 50 and another seat on the other side of the 50. But break this game down. What should we be paying attention to as this game goes down this Saturday?
Be real. Dr. Pavia probably going to sit on the paycheck side.
No, I actually at Prairie View, I'll be upfront with you. Prairie View, I actually have a suite. I'm fortunate, and so I do a suite when I'm at Texas Southern. I get to share the suite with the athletic director, Dr. Kevin Granger, who I've done a lot of work with. So he blesses me with seats in there. So Deuce is spoiled. I don't think he knows what a traditional seat is. And the basketball game, he's courtside for both. Whether it's Prairie View, Texas Southern, he sits on the court seat, so he thinks that's what you're supposed to do.
You're ruining.
He think that's normal.
You're supposed to be in a suite.
He thinks that's normal
on the thing. Yeah, it's ruining. But I want him to understand that privilege in terms of HBCUs can have the same type of atmosphere and niceties that you can get in terms of any level, professional or what we call a Power 5. So it's a purpose between me doing that. And I'm fortunate that I have the financial means to be able to make that happen. So we go in there. But to your point, the game was at Prairie View since 2016. So it's funny when I hear people talk about thinking the game is still in what was the Astrodome NRG Stadium. It hadn't been there in like 2009 in a long time because it was actually when these stadiums were getting built, both in terms of where the Texas Southern University plays the game, which used to be Compass BBVA Compass Stadium, and now it's PNG. When that was being built, they were playing in high school for those games and things of that nature. So it's come a long way full circle when it used to be in Robinson Stadium. You had a long streak by Texas Southern that won some 20-some games. Prairie View, that's when they had the non-scholarship days and stuff like that. So people at Texas Southern got spoiled. They would go to the game, and the biggest thing you were looking for to see maybe a Prairie View would score. And certainly the halftime in terms of that battle was significant because that's where you would get your bragging points. Later, Prairie View totally turned it, and they've won like 12 of the last 13 games, 3 or 4 straight, 6 out of the last 7, something ridiculous where it's totally turned, where Prairie View has won all these games. But the game is played on the home stadium, and people forget that BBVA Compass Stadium, PNG, now where the Houston Dynamo and Dash play, is actually the home stadium for Texas Southern University. So that's why when the game is a Texas Southern game, it's played there. When it's a Prairie View game, they play it at the home Panther Stadium, which it will be played this year, and that goes back to 2016 for when Prairie View played there and opened up the stadium to that year. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm fascinated to see what Andrew Body is going to do. I have no question offensively he should be solid. Now, Prairie View, quietly kept, have 8 players coming back on defense. 9 players actually coming back on defense. Obviously, they lost Dumas, and they lost the big-time cornerback, but they have a lot of players that have started some games here and there. So essentially, they have 9, and they have 8 coming back on offense. Now, that doesn't include the quarterback. I snuck him in a little bit earlier. It's Trayvon Connolly, who has started. He just hasn't been able to grab the role, but he is 7-1 as a starter, which surprises a lot of folks. So that's going to be fascinating. So he has a lot of confidence. Can he get it done on that field? I think Bubba is going to try to run the ball a little more. See if he can tire the defensive down, run out the clock, and keep Andrew Body on the sideline. And that's probably the question of the day. What is Texas Southern defense going to look like? That's the big question that everybody's talked about over the last year. Can Texas Southern change the corner in regards to moving from a solid team, particularly offensively, to a good team that is in contention? I have them third, so I have them getting this game, finally getting it done. But I think it'll be close, so don't be surprised if Prairie View finds a way to keep up the streak. But the problem with this game is some coach is going to be on the hot seat. If it's Texas Southern, it's really going to be hot because you're talking about a coach that has been there 4 years and hasn't been able to beat Prairie View and hasn't come anywhere close to a winning season. Coach McKinley knows that, and so he's going to go down there seeking to get the trophy with Andrew Body. They've been really getting it done in terms of the all-season. A lot of leadership from Andrew Body, having the wide receivers there. And they have a pretty solid offensive line. So that side of the ball shouldn't be a problem. But then you go to the defensive side and see what they can get done against Prairie View. So I'm fascinated there when you talk about Bubba McDowell, who is another one of those coaches that played at the professional level. He's been homegrown in terms of staying in Houston. Got his start, oddly enough, as a volunteer at Texas Southern University. And then finally came on the staff at Prairie View. Hasn't been a coordinator on either side of the ball, but he has been assistant head coach and right under the head coach. So you would think he's got a lot of experience there, but that's the big question mark. A lot of newness for Prairie View, including the athletic director, Dr. Reed. First time being an athletic director, first time head coach, basically first time offensive coordinators. So can they continue the trajectory that you see for Prairie View, which has had a winning season over the last couple of years, 5 out of the last 7 years. So they've been solid right at that 500 mark. They really got over the hump last year. But a lot of players for Prairie View have a lot to prove. They feel the coach kind of left them, and a lot of people disrespect them in terms of what they get done. And so that's another fascinating thing about these players. And players can make coaches look really good, especially when they play with a chip on their shoulder. And that's what you'll see from the Panthers.
Yeah, the storylines. I mean, there aren't too many times when you'll have a team that went 2-8 last year, going up against the division champs of a year ago that are 7-5, and have so many juicy storylines. I mean, look, I know in the SWAC in the SWAC nation, the FAMU Jackson State will get a lot of the attention, but I tell you, this is a game that deserves, and for a lot of those points you just brought up were all great. I mean, it was pretty much where I was thinking and going earlier. All of those storylines are just staring both teams in the face going into this game.
You're right on the
So
money with that, especially for Texas Southern, because Game 4 is against Southern. So you think about this. By week 5, Texas Southern could be 2-0 in the Western Division and surprises everybody. You'll know really early where Texas Southern stands in this league.
Yep. That was one of the things that when I did my matrix, I actually like Texas Southern early in the season. I like them in the first 4 to 5 weeks versus the last 4 to 5 weeks. I'll just say that. But I think I'll just put it out there like that. But Prairie View will be interesting to see. Can a quarterback, and like I said, the fact we've already seen what two new quarterbacks do, and how they excite the fan base. Alabama State, FAMU. Can a new quarterback at Prairie View, what can he do to excite with so many? I mean, look, when you got that many returners coming back, Doc, people are talking championships. But obviously, new coach, a different direction. So let's go through a couple of picks here.
You said it right. When you talk about the Prairie View faithful, they believe that they should be back in the championship game. They think a couple of plays last year and they win the championship game, and they're in Atlanta. So you can't tell many of the Prairie View fans much. They think that people are sleeping on them. And so it's going to be interesting to see can the football team and the coach deliver what the fans believe they rightfully should have.
Right. Let me go through a few picks with you, Doc. Obviously, you have every right to change your opinion because you have two shows coming on this week. So obviously, as more intel throughout the course of the week comes out, you have. We're not going to hold you to anything that you say here because obviously things change over the course of the week, and folks can tune in the Doc's show and catch the latest update on these picks. So we'll go with just the major SWAC games of FCS. We'll go to these top 5 games, and we'll start on Thursday with Alabama A&M traveling to UAB. 8 p.m. kickoff, 7 Central on CBS Network. Can Alabama A&M go on the road and get a win?
No, I don't believe they'll go on the road to get the win, but I think it'll be closer than the projected finish, and we'll get an indication again to see where the quarterback is. I think both quarterbacks are expected to play, so we'll see if somebody can kind of nail down the job and looks better than the other one. I also want to see a little bit about that defense. You know, that total defense changed out. How will they play and how will they look? It'll be interesting to see early. Do you see that team kind of gelling and being able to do what they want to do defensively, which gives you a whole different picture of what the Alabama A&M Bulldogs could be if they have a defense. Because offensively, I think they'll find a way to get that done. Obviously, you won't get the same production of glass, but there's many ways to win the game, and I think you'll see a little more balance, which is really what Coach likes to do over there. But I would have to go with UAB to win the game at home, especially on a Thursday night.
Also on Thursday night, Mississippi Valley State 4-6 a year ago, traveling to Tarleton, who's 3-5 from a year ago. Just transitioned into FCS. That's at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ESPN Plus. Can Valley out one of the FCS newbies?
Yeah, when you talk about Tarleton, they were a very solid Division II. For those folks that are closer to and not out of Texas, it's remember what you see with the Delta State, Valdosta State. They're that type of team out of Texas that tends to go pretty far, win what they did in Division II, and go deep into the tournament. So this is a team that has had a lot of influx of money in this program as they move to FCS. There's even some talk that they're trying to go FBS to give you some indication in just how much money and influx is in their program. The fact that this game is a road game from Valley is what gives you more problems. Don't take Tarleton State lightly just because they moved into FCS. This is a team that provided some upsets last year at the FCS level in terms of what they were doing in the WAC, as well as the conference over there. I slipping the name when you talk about Sam Houston State and as they left the conference over there with McNeese State and all the Southland. The Southland I'm thinking about.
Okay, yeah.
Mixing it up there. But I think I would have to go with Tarleton just in terms of what that looks like. They're going to be pretty solid. They're going to be punching their weight, trying to get into the top 25 and things of that nature. So keep your eyes on Tarleton State as I believe they'll pull out the victory. You'll see some plays where you're going to look at Mississippi Valley State. They'll continue to be strong on defense. And what will happen is Tarleton will pull away late in the game, and the score will be worse than what you indicated in terms of how the game is played overall.
Another matchup against an historically white college. You got Grambling with a 4-7 record from a year ago, taking on Arkansas State, who was 2-10 a year ago. That game is 7 Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN3. The debut of Hugh Jackson. Doc, what do you think? Can he pull it off? Can the Tigers, Grambling, pull off an upset? If you call it an upset.
No. It would be an upset. Arkansas State is an FBS program, and we don't give credit what it means to have those extra 5 scholarships. Even if you got a 2-10 team. Now, this is the type of game that could be an upset. I look for Grambling if they can get things going, and they get a quarterback that surprises everybody, and that's still what we don't know, and that's the unknown. But going in there and not having the unknown until you see the quarterback, it's hard to come in there and say that you see the upset coming. Is this a game that could be in that manner? I would say yes, but realistically, to me, you have to give this to Arkansas State. Being at home, another year under the belt for the coach up there, what they got to do, I think with those extra scholarships, I have to give the edge to Arkansas State. Grambling again will play tough. You'll see some good movement. I like to see if we're going to find out anything about the quarterback. This is another one of those games that you talked about, like we saw this past weekend, where you see Prairie View, Trezon, can he grab the role and really do things as a quarterback? You'll see that here as well. Whoever the Grambling decides to start, and that's what we're looking at before we even make a decision in terms of the upset. We got to know who they're going to play, who is going to get the job. You know, we've heard rumors in terms of what that looks like, but until you hear it, I can't go with Grambling as of yet, as much as I hate to do it. But I think you have to go with Arkansas State in terms of the Wolves getting it done in those matchups at this point. And as you said, I don't have a problem giving the scores on this show because I'm the host on the show that I do Tuesday and Thursday. So I don't do predictions. This is the first time you get a prediction, so that's why people are probably shocked because they're like, "Dang, Cavil calling the shot." I usually just sit back and take the host role, and I don't provide. I just ask you why you doing that, pick fun at you, but I don't have to give it. But now I'm on the hot seat, so what the hell?
There you go. There you go. Hey, okay. Alcorn State is hosting Stephen F. Austin. Now, we saw Stephen F. Austin get mollywopped on national TV, and now they're traveling to Alcorn State, and Alcorn State has that home winning streak. And as Charles Edmond told us in the last segment, you know, Doc, so far you've been 0 for 3 with the HBCUs. Is Alcorn State, can they win that home game against Stephen F. Austin? What do you think?
I like this because they're at home. That's a tough place to play. Those who have been familiar with the SWAC know that. As y'all coming into the SWAC, you start to see and hear, just how tough it is to go in the Brave Nation and get it done down there. Stephen F. Austin did not look very strong, not like a top 10 program. Going in there, a lot of people are trying to attribute to the fact that Jacksonville State made the move to FBS. But they are unlike what you saw with James Madison, that actually jumped in there and asked for the FBS process. So they basically a year ahead in terms of moving that, unlike what you see with Sam Houston State and Jacksonville State, which are basically a year behind in regards to the petition time where they started to go FBS. But once you declare you're in that role and you're going to be de-eligible for FCS playoffs and poll rankings for some groups, that is, and most of the conferences are not going to make you eligible for the conference. So be careful about those that tell you that Jacksonville State was playing with all this FBS. Now, obviously, they were able to recruit from that benefit, but most of that recruiting was already done. So when you really look at the timeline of what that is. Now, they might have got a couple of transfers to help with that, but Stephen F. Austin struggled mightily in that game. So I think there's a chance there. Now, the challenge you have is the fact that now a coach gets to come back and make some corrections. That is not the case for Alcorn, and they're breaking in a new quarterback. Arguably a pretty strong, but this is another indication where we're going to get the measure to see where Alcorn is in quarterback. In terms of the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be stingy. They're bringing in a new coach, but it's a coach that is coming back that all indications tell us that Brave defense is back to being even more stingy than it is in the past. And that's what they're going to need to do in this game. Stephen F. Austin is going to try to run the ball and then open it up for the pass. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Braves can do on the defensive side of the ball. This is the game where I will give the nod to the HBC program in terms of SWAC. Stephen F. Austin finding a way to get it done in a close game, and they'll pull away a little late to make it more comfortable, but they'll find a way to get this done against Stephen F. Austin.
There you go. Just a couple more here, Doc. I don't want to leave out the folks in North Carolina, the Duke's Mayo Classic, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central. I want to bring that because significance of that game. I think is it the 100th meeting between these two teams?
Yeah,
I think I had
100 meeting between the two teams playing. It'd be interesting if you really look at what is that number when both teams are at the FCS level. Remember, they played a lot of years where A&T dominated against Central, but that was when Central was Division II, except for the couple of years when Broadway was over there when he brought a national championship to the Eagles, when he beat A&T and went down to Southern and beat them too. where they just mollywopped everybody and had one of those magical years. Well, guess who was the coordinator of that team? He is now the head coach. And so he has a pulse on that team. This is a team that kind of stubbed their feet, had some up and downs, but they were a couple of plays away for actually winning the MEAC last year and going back to the Celebration Bowl and being one of the first teams that started in Atlanta and ended in Atlanta in regards to getting that upset over Alcorn. They have a solid quarterback. And Central is usually really good when they have a quarterback that's been there a year in the city and is taking that next step. So surprisingly, I have Central Eagles to the dismay of many of those Aggies out there. I have the Eagles getting done against the Aggies. And boy, it's gonna get ugly in North Carolina A&T if that happens. But because most of the fans are believing that the Aggies are going to do what they do against the Eagles and beat them, which is funny to me because other than the last couple of years, that game has kind of went back and forth depending on who was the home team. Because they moved that game back similar to what you saw with Texas Southern and Prairie View. They used to play at a neutral site, play it as a classic, but when they moved and Central moved into the MEAC, they mostly went back to a home and away, and mostly the home team would win that game, particularly over the last 5, 6, 7 years when they were playing in that format. So I'm fascinated to see about this matchup. I'm certainly going to be watching it and finding a way to keep up with the scores, if you would. But I'm going with the Eagles to get it done in terms of that game.
Hey, how about the fact that this game will be played in that stadium there? I don't know what it used to be called, the Bank of America Stadium for the Panthers. I don't know what sponsor has it now, but it potentially could be the largest and most attended Aggie Eagle Classic because neither one of, I mean, the Aggies have a stadium that seats just around 20, maybe a little over 20 or a little under 20. North Carolina Central Stadium is a little bit less than that. So if you get 30, 35,000 that show up, because look, hey, everyone hadn't been able to go. So now this is the year when every Eagle, every Aggie in the state should be going to Charlotte and going to this game. Imagine that you get 40, 45,000. I mean, that's going to look great. So I hope the folks show up. I hope they show up because those two schools really will benefit from the eyes on that game. Not only the eyes in the stands, but the eyes on TV. That's a 7:30 Eastern kickoff, 6:30. I don't have any TV listing for that one. And just to go back, Alcorn State, Charles told us that game will actually be on Alcorn State's broadcast network, which you can go, I think, on their website. It is pay-per-view. You can watch that game on theirs because it will not be on ESPN as originally thought. Last game for you, Doc, and then we'll let you out of here.
Yeah, before
Orange
you
Blossom.
get in that, I do want to say, as you said, and to Brian, I agree with you, that this was a game, as I said, was a neutral site, and they would get up to 30. But the last couple of years, again, Central was still Division II, so A&T started a win streak, and the attendance was going down. And so that's kind of one of the reasons they just brought it back to campus as they moved up. But the early sales says that basically the lower bowl has been sold out. So it's my understanding that they've already sold like 30-some thousand pre-sale. So to your point, there should easily be 40-some thousand people in there, and it makes sense if you think about it. A lot of Central fans believe this is the year. Obviously, South Carolina State, for most people, were picked to win the MEAC, but those that are not, many people are looking for North Carolina Central to get it done, and so they're right in the mix. In terms of the Big South, everybody's thinking North Carolina A&T is having a bounce back year and they're going to win it. So you got two teams that are picked to be at the top of their conference that are going to clash and fight it all that haven't met in this type of matchup in regards to a central location. So I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see not only the game, but the fans there to celebrate and see what the attendance look like. And I think they've been doing really good marketing. And at this point, all indications say that, it's going to be a great attended event.
Nice. All right, last one is the OBC, Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 in Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, FAMU, Jackson State, the OBC remix. It should be noted historically, what's interesting, 61 and 62, that's 1961, 1962, was the 2 years that FAMU and Jackson State first played in the OBC. Jackson State won the first meeting, FAMU won the second meeting. Fast forward 60 years later, Jackson State wins the first meeting last year. Well, I don't know. History, will it repeat itself? So, Doc, what are your thoughts? FAMU, Jackson State.
Man, I hate to say this to my FAMU guys out there. No, not so fast. Let me tease it out a little bit. In terms of Jackson State, they have reloaded, and what many people says, which is scary to me because I keep hearing this indication that some of the players they had on defense that were starting are now running on the third team, including some of the wide receivers. So the depth is supposed to be there. So it's fascinating to see how much of that is just, fan talk or whatever. But there's a lot of anticipation in this matchup in this game in terms of that. The big question, obviously, for FAMU is now that they found a quarterback, but how many of the players are they going to get back and get eligible, particularly on the defensive side of the ball? You see that FAMU has heart. That's never been a problem with a FAMU rally team. If they don't play with heart, obviously the coach is gone, and you're going to get rid of a lot of those players too. The Rattler faithful is not going to stand for that. So that team showed you what the legacy is in terms of strike again. When they went up to North Carolina Central, the question is heart is only going to take you so far and so long before attrition really sits in. So that's my biggest point in this game. Until I get more information in regards to which players are going to be back, I'm going to have to lean to Jackson State. But I am fascinated in this matchup in terms of what's going to look like. I think you got two teams that are going to play back and forth. I certainly believe it's going to be more high scoring than it was last year. But as many of the Jackson State people think that they're going to blow FAMU away, I think they're kidding themselves and they're going to be nervous if they're not careful talking about how they're just going to blow out this team. I think it's going to be a close one, and Jackson State is going to find a way to pull late. I like what EA says to pick them, but you got me on the show and I don't get paid to do pick them, so I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to say Jackson State get it done by a late field goal in this matchup.
Man, it's all right, Doc. We understand. We understand.
No offense, Doc, but if it comes down to a field goal, Florida A&M has the best kicker in the conference. So you may want to reconsider that one before you go back on your show on Tuesday. Just throwing it out there at you.
No,
we just need
Jose
to block
Romo Martinez.
What they have to do on the field goal side.
We just need to line the block for him. Make sure he doesn't get a block. A block field goal is the big. Hey, a block field goal is the difference in that game from last year. That block field goal that FAMU had at the end. No, it was a block field goal.
No, it's block field goal. That's correct.
Field goal to win it. They had a block.
Yes.
They had a missed field goal earlier that would have had the game tied at the time, but they had a chance to win it. People forget late, and that was a blocked field goal that they couldn't get done. And I believe that a field goal will be a difference in this game late in terms of the Rattlers going down to the Tigers of Jackson State.
Yeah, that game is going to be on ESPN2. And then appreciate my guy from the Things Up podcast who said that the North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central game, that's going to be on ESPN3. So that game will be on the ESPN networks. I just didn't have have that on my sheet. Hey, you guys be on the lookout. We're going to be putting more information out. We're going to have a picks contest among the HBCU FCS level teams. And so hopefully a picks contest and featuring everyone and all the shows part of the BCSN, and you guys will get a chance to kind of pick as well. So we're going to do, this is one of those things, Doc, where what we like to say, we like to do top fives around here. So everyone will get a chance to kind of pick your five. You pick the 5 games, and then hopefully you go 5-0. That's the nature of the beast. So if you don't go 5-0, that's because you picked the wrong game. So, that's how that's going to be. We're going to, so we're going to let people know more about that here in the upcoming days. We'll get with you. You may end up breaking the news on it on Tuesday, but we're going to drop that out on the Facebook page. So if you're not already signed up on the SportsWrap Facebook page, please make sure you do that. Doc, appreciate your time this
I
evening.
see we got Avis Heath out there. Let me give a shout out to Avis Heath, one of the biggest Jackson State fans out there. And boy, don't talk noise to Avis Heath. He's not the one to play with. Let me just tell y'all folks, don't play with that guy. He's the wrong one. But with that being said, Avis Heath, I know the block was in the first half. I said they field goal, man. They blocked it. They lost the game because it got blocked early. They would have won.
Hey, he wasn't the one out there telling people that Jackson State was going to put up 40 on us, was it? It wasn't him, was it?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to make sure. Because
You got to look through that. You got to look past
Okay.
that. Avis is letting you fall in his trap. Don't do that. Avis is on the other board with the pregame show, the 1400 Club. He back there kicking the knowledge. He breaking down players, position. This man is a scientist on his Jackson State Tigers. When he come out here, he the man. Y'all being fooled. He's setting you up for the failure, getting you in that oaken dope and gonna reel you in. That ain't Avis. I'm telling you. Let the sleeping tiger do his crouch and all that stuff. Don't get into that. He gonna bite you.
I got
he
you.
Gonna get you.
I got you. We snakes, we like to roll around in the grass, though, Doc. That's the problem. We like to move in the grass on folks.
What up, Avis?
So, yeah. Hey, Doc, your show Thursday night coming up, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. Doc, Charles, Mike. Who knows? You might see Drew. You might see me. Who knows? But if the guys are all there, then it's the three professors with Doc leading the class. So make sure you guys get into the lab, and should be a good week. Should be a good week here. Lots of fun.
I love the comments.
I tell you.
Great job,
I
man.
know the comments. I'm telling you, man. Keep them going.
But no,
hey,
and we'll give you some major classic game of the week. We're gonna give you the conference game of the week, MEAC SWAC matchup. We do SIAC, CIAA. We mix that all in. We're gonna give you the top 10 poll rankings, what that looks like. We give you the marching sport top 10. So if you want the banner and want to be inside that news, come on and check us out on Tuesday and Thursday, and then we wrap it on a Sunday and let you know who was right, who was wrong, who's crying, who's hot, which coach got to go, who gets to stay. We'll talk all that on Sunday to make sure that you can either go to work on Monday with your head held high, or you're going to be ducking down there and talking about, wait till this week.
I see, and I see your boy. There he is, already starting.
I go in if they lost, they quiet as a mouse.
There you go. Right. Oh, man. Hey, look, don't go anywhere, because on the other side, Drew and I, we're breaking down. We're going to give you our top 5. It's picks time from Drew and me coming up on the other side. Doc, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Hang tight. Give us 2 minutes, and we're coming right back. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you, guys. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
There's a shot.
Shot
To
that
right.
might be.
It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1. Follow the Black College Sports Network.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
Let's get back to strolling.
Okay, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew here. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1. Go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on the Google Apple Play Store. Just search MyJBN or MyBCSN. It's picks time. Drew, so what is our official record after week 0? Where are we at? How did you do? How did I do?
How you did? Well, let's go ahead and get the bad news out the way. I went 0-3.
Oh, wow.
I picked Howard over Alabama State. Took that
So
L.
did I. That's a loss. Yep.
I picked Edward Waters over Florida Memorial. And
I took the. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think you took Florida Memorial and the points.
I did because I think you said it was like 11, and I took Florida Memorial, but I had, if we're going straight up, I had Edward Waters, so I'm 0-2 straight up.
Okay, and the last one was North Carolina, Florida A&M. We both took that one. I took the over with North Carolina. You took the under with North Carolina.
No, wait a minute. Took the under. What are you talking about? Where did I take the under?
I'm sorry. You took Florida A&M and the points. You took Florida A&M with
Yeah,
points.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'm
I've been
sorry, not the
saying
over and
since
under.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
the original.
I had that backwards. I took North Carolina at minus the points. You took Florida A&M plus the points.
Oh, so okay. So I'm 1-2. You're 0-3.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I like that. I like that. And I'm actually probably 2-1 ATS. So I like that. I'm 2-1 ATS, but I'm 1-2 straight
against
up.
the spread.
I like that. I tried to
Right.
tell people, look, the original line was 35.5.
And they
North
lost by
Carolina.
32.
And then but what's funny is when the announcement came out, it jumped a whole like 2 touchdowns
11
almost,
points.
where it went up to as
Yes.
the closing line was somewhere in the ballpark of 47.5 or 40. So yeah, if you would have asked me before the game, I would have told you to take FAMU on the points, parlay it with the over, which I think was 50 something in that game, and you would have cashed out big time. I would have told you that. But okay, which brings me to this week, some interesting games. Now, I just saw T-Dos ask me about the line of Bethune and Miami. I don't have a line, no line. That game is Saturday afternoon. That line probably won't come out until Thursday.
About Thursday,
So
yes.
yeah, so I don't have a line on that. We sometimes will look at Massey ratings to kind of see what those lines might be, because I'll tell you a lot of times those books, they look at Massey ratings and see what they predict the game to be, and then they will kind of set numbers on that, and it will move. For those of you who don't know, the numbers move one way or the other based on money. So that's the big difference between the computer ratings and the computer numbers versus Vegas. A lot of times numbers move based on money. So if, for example, the number is 42 in favor of one team, if a lot of money's coming in on the favorite, then the line will move from 42, it'll move up to 44. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how it moves. So just to kind of let you know. All right,
Massey
so
has it at Massey has Miami minus 38 right now.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know, T-Dos. I mean, you tell us. I'm staying away from that game. I'm not touching that game with a 10-foot pole. So I have no clue on whether Bethune can keep it close for a half or what. You might have a better feel for that. So go ahead and jump in the chat there and tell us. I know that's a 2-9 Bethune-Cookman from a year ago, taking on the number 16 ranked Miami, Florida, in the debut of a new coach. So yeah, good luck with that. I don't want any parts of that contest. All right, here we got a couple games on. So Drew and I, we're gonna pick 5. We're gonna go through the list of these FCS games and try to pick 5 games that we like. Not necessarily in saying that we're gonna pick an HBCU, but we're just gonna pick 5 games, and there's some interesting matchups, and you guys are gonna get some info. If you follow us on Facebook, let me tell you, our picks contest will be made public. We're gonna put it out there, give everybody a chance to be a part of it. We're gonna ask for look. It's a big pool, but we're gonna be looking for a little donation to be a part of it. So you make a donation. Talking about $5 to be a part of our pool might be a little gift for you if you end up winning it. So it's a picks contest. You'll see. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. BCSN SportsWrap is where you can find on Facebook, and we'll be putting that out here in the day. Mary 305 is taking BCU over Miami. Woo! Okay. That's all right, Mary. That's all right. All right, let's start on Thursday, Drew. We got a couple of matchups. You got South Carolina State traveling to UCF. You've got Alabama A&M and UAB, Mississippi Valley State, and Tarleton State. Any game there that you want to take in your 5?
Let's
Come on now.
if we
Think wrong.
if we were playing with points, there would be some games. And this is straight up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Straight up. These are
Yeah,
straight up. Wins, losses,
pick
straight up. No
straight up.
points involved.
Um, I am going to take. I'm gonna play cap obvious. I'm taking UCF over South Carolina State.
That's what I did too. Captain Obvious. Now, if I'll be interested to see what the points are in that game because South Carolina State is not scared of UCF. They have played UCF before. I think last time they played them was 2019. There might be some guys on the roster that were young freshmen, young pups that played in that ball game. So, and I think at that time, that game ended up being a 38-14 ball game. Different head coach at UCF at the time, but the play quick thing that UCF likes to do, South Carolina State had a good defense, still has a good defense. That's going to be an interesting game. So be watching out for the points. I don't know if you're able to pull up Massey real quick while you're there and
Which
see.
game is this?
That's
Central
the South
Florida
Carolina
and
State UCF. See what the line, what they
South
think that
Carolina
one will be.
State. Right now, South Carolina State 35. UCF minus
Ooh,
35.
man, I could be tempted, Drew, to take South Carolina State to cover 35. I really could.
Yeah.
I really could be tempted. I'll have to keep my eyes on that on game day, especially if it gets higher. If it gets higher into the near close to 40, like 38, I definitely might be taking South Carolina State in the points. Interesting that Doc and Charles didn't really like Alabama A&M or Mississippi Valley State's chances this upcoming weekend. If there's an upset, which one of those two games, which one of those two teams do you think, Drew, could pull the upset? A&M, Alabama A&M, or Mississippi Valley State?
Honestly, I think Valley has a better chance against Tarleton than Alabama A&M against UAB. And the reason I'm saying this, I know what I'm getting with Mississippi Valley State. I'm not sure what I am going to get with Alabama A&M. You've got potentially 11 new starters on defense, and you don't know who the quarterback is. Too many unknowns for me to go out on the limb and pick Alabama A&M. But at least I have a history with the core group of this Valley squad. So I'm going to go with that history. And we've seen Valley play teams close and Valley surprise them. And Valley is a team, if you let them hang around, they will come out with it with the W. So
Yeah.
that would be the team that I would say would be the upset on Thursday if one of those three teams were to pull off an upset.
Valley, huh? Okay, that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what Alabama A&M Nation does, whether they show up for this contest at UAB. I think of the two, that is the group, because think about all the Division One FBS level transfers that are at A&M. Assuming that those guys don't run into any certification issues, hint hint. It'll be that A&M team might be interesting to watch against UAB. Okay, all
Hey,
right. Let's move
hey,
into
Brian,
Saturday. Yes.
before we go any further, T Dot says y'all need to train us how to bet. I'm kind of lost. I'm gonna take that and put that along with what our producer Roy Evans said on yesterday. Now, if we do this, y'all, I'm just gonna put this out. A couple of rules. Hey, don't try to pay your rent with this money that you're out here doing. Make sure you got your rent, your car note, groceries in the house, etc., etc., etc. This is fun. This is entertainment. This is how I don't go to the club anymore. So the type of money that I would spend on entertainment at by going to the club and going to the movies and stuff like that, it's kind of what I play around and do this stuff with. So just want to keep that in mind. And yes, Brian, we've been talking about doing it for 2 years. Let's just put
It might be
together a
that time.
basics of it. I think it's that time.
Hey, look, and look, we are no experts, by the way, but this is what I'll say. My number one rule: never bet more than what you can afford to lose.
I.e., my used to
Rule,
be my party bunny.
right. Rule number one: never bet more than what you are willing to lose. It's almost like when somebody asks to borrow money from me, I'm not saying yes unless I know that money I'm okay being without. Because
Because
if
you're
I
not gonna
start
get it again.
expecting if I expect it back, I'm gonna get disappointed. I'm gonna be upset and butthurt. And you know what? I've learned once you loan that money, just count that money as gone. So this is the
I don't even
same
know why people.
thing.
I tell people don't even say the word loan to me. Why don't you just say, "Give me
Well,
$20 or give me
you know,
$100"?
we got
Because I know
it.
you.
It doesn't
Because I know
sound.
your history
It
is
doesn't
that you're not
sound.
going to pay it back.
It does, I look, but it still doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. It's out. But in your heart, you really want to give it back, but you
Loan.
just.
Okay, are you talking credit card rate or are you talking about personal friend rate? Because I give it to you at 29.9. If you got bad credit, you might get down to 19.9
Oh
if you got
wow!
a history
Stop
with
it!
me. I'm
Stop it!
sorry.
Stop it! All right, so we both have picked one game. All right, we got four more to go. Let's go through the Saturday slate of FCS contests. Now, there's some HBCU versus FBS matchups. You got, of course, we mentioned Bethune traveling to Miami, Florida. You got Norfolk State traveling to Marshall University. Grambling State traveling to Arkansas State. Yeah, Arkansas State is a Division FBS. I think that's Sun Belt, right?
That would sound
So
about right.
that's the yeah. So that's the three. Morgan State, Georgia Southern. I think Georgia Southern is also one of
F,
those
FBS.
FBS. So that's those. Any one of those games that you're interested in taking, Drew.
I took the you said Marshall. I took Marshall over Norfolk State and Georgia Southern over Morgan State.
Okay. I'm gonna take the Miami over Bethune. Remember, these are straight up, so that's easy. I'm gonna we gotta make you pick. We're going these last two of these have
The
to be
last two.
HBCU versus HBCU matchups. We
Well,
got to
I've
make
only
at
got
least
one of
two of
those.
these be. Well, we gotta make this at least two of them be those
Okay.
kind of matchups. All right, so
All
that I'm,
right
I'm
then.
calling an
So let me
audible
take
to
one of
that.
my games off. Let me take one of my games off and change one. All
Right.
right. I
They,
pulled. I pulled
hold on.
the. Oh,
Wait, because I want to set up for a second. One of the HBCU versus FCS matchups that I think is kind of interesting is Tennessee State traveling all the way out to Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington is ranked top 10 in the FCS polls, number 6 I've seen in some places. That division that they play in, I think I can't recall what it is exactly, but they put some teams in the playoffs, and Eastern Washington has been a Final Four team in the FCS playoffs. So Tennessee State is rated as one of the top tier HBCU football programs according to the metrics, and this will be interesting to see, can they travel out to the far northwest, and can they get look, dare I say, a win? How about be competitive? How about be in this ball game for 4 quarters? That's what we're going to be looking for Tennessee State, because um, this is one of those games where Tennessee State, you can either get off to a great start leading into your Jackson State contest, or you can be looking at a 0-2 season in the first 2 weeks. So I just wanted to mention that. So let's see. I went with okay. So I'm gonna go all HBCU matchups in my last 3. So you got your last 2. All right. So let's go. Let's go HBC. I want to pick Grambling State over Arkansas State, but Doc walked me off of that. I thought Charles and Doc might go for that and say Grambling State, but they made some good points. So I'm gonna have to walk away from that Grambling State. And rule number 2, never bet money, never chase a bet. Never be unsure. Never, never be unsure about a bet. And if you hemming and hawing about it, put it in your pocket. All right, put it in your pocket. So I'm walking away from the window. All right, Drew, let's go. What's the next matchup? We've got Howard and Hampton. How about that? Is that appealing to you at all? No, staying away from that. The real HU
Staying away
matchup.
from that one. Yeah.
Hampton has won that matchup, I believe, the last few years. It's a 6 p.m. Eastern on Flow Sports, wherever you can pick up Flow. I think that's a pay-per-view channel. And that game is going to be somewhere in D.C., right? That's going to be in Audi Stadium, I think is the name, where they play soccer
I think
in that stadium.
I think Howard plays it there twice because I think they're playing the whichever Ivy League school they're playing at home is also
when
in
they're
Audi
hosting
Stadium.
Harvard or Yale. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
whichever Ivy League is
All
in
right.
Audi.
So you're staying away from that one. I am going to pick. I'm just going to here's my third one. I'm picking Alcorn State at home over Stephen F. Austin. I'm going with that. I'm going with Alcorn State over Stephen F. Austin.
See, Brian, you're not making this fun. You're picking the same game and the same teams. How we gonna separate each other?
Well, look. Eventually, look. The whole idea is to go 5-0, Drew. But we know. Look. Here's another thing. Let me tell you another thing. You never go 100%. You never do it. Trust me. So we're picking these games.
When you do, you will know it and you will gloat. It happens every night.
Yeah, rule number 3. It may look good on Tuesday when you're picking them, but by game time you're fussing and cussing. Oh man, I knew I should have picked that other game. All right. So let's go to what are our another HBCU matchup. You didn't want Howard Hampton. There's only 3 left on the board. So who are the 2?
I've got Texas Southern over Prairie View.
Ooh.
And I've got Central over A&T. For my other 2.
Okay. Texas Southern over Prairie View. That game is a home game for Prairie View. Man, I tell you what. See, here's another thought process, right? I'm going to fade terminology here, fading the public. Meaning, everybody's all on the Andrew Body bandwagon, on the Texas Southern. Ooh, Andrew Body and all this other stuff that Scotty got all y'all excited, and y'all excited about Texas Southern. Hey, y'all, no one's talking about Prairie View. Doc just told you what Prairie View has, right? I think I'm going to pick Prairie View at home while everybody is discounting them. They're the home team. They got a lot of returners. Yeah, they lost Dumas up front, but you got a lot of other guys returning. A new quarterback, one of these Texas quarterbacks that everybody's in love with. I mean, credit to more props to these guys. They're showing up. I'm gonna go Prairie View, Drew. So there's one game that we will be different on right there. There's one. I don't know. This Central A&T. I don't know, man. I'm gonna stay away from that one. I'm gonna fade that one. I gotta make my last one. You know what I gotta make my last one?
Florida A&M
I have
Jackson
no
State,
choice.
And that's the one I'm faded. That's the one I faded until I get more clarification on the outcome.
I don't need more clarification. 364 days of this dealing with this loss and what it has meant to FAMU. I can't go into that day knowing that somewhere I picked Jackson State or even just
that's why I'm not even
FAMU.
picking that game. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm putting it on wax.
What rule we up on? Number 4, number 5? Bet with your head and not your heart, even when it comes to your alma mater. So
yes, that's true.
I'm staying away from that game.
Yes, that's another look. That is a common theme for a lot of people. You stay away from your alma mater because you think you love that team. You're too much emotion. So if this were involving some peanuts or some credits, I would stay away from this game. As confident as I was against UNC, I am just too emotional to really think about this game clearly. And I'm sacrificing potentially a dub here in this game, Drew, off clear emotion. I'm telling y'all now, look, just take the money out. Look, here's my wallet. Just take the 20 and just throw it. I'm just throwing it away, burn it because it is what it is. I'm burning the money on this game, Drew. There's no getting around it. I'm just burning it. It just is what it is. All right, so there it is. Just to recap, I've got UCF over South Carolina State, Miami, Florida over Bethune. I'm taking Alcorn State at home over Stephen F. Austin, Prairie View over Texas Southern, and FAMU over Jackson State in the OBC. Recap your 5 again, Drew.
I've got UCF over South Carolina State. I've got Marshall over Norfolk. I've got Alcorn over Stephen F. Austin, Texas Southern over Prairie View, and Central over A&T. Sorry, Jamie.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. In terms of the D2 level, what is a game or two that we're interested in, that we're paying attention to on the D2 matchups?
Uh, First game you got to pay attention to is going to be it's going to be Albany State and Mississippi College.
Yeah.
Albany State beat Mississippi College by a score of 24-0 last year in Mississippi. So now the fact that they get to come back, it's the return game at home, and Albany State trying to play for a higher seed. If they assuming that they make it back to the playoffs, they need to get this W not only this week, but next week against Shorter College also. Also looking at this week, and I'm trying to bounce around the conferences.
Well, let me go one. We'll alternate here. We'll alternate while you
Okay.
give one, and that'll
Go
give
ahead.
you time. So I told you my first game. I've said this last week. I think I said it on another show as well. Fayetteville State hosting UNC Pembroke. They have not beaten an HWCU non-conference since 1993. And you've got 2 games back-to-back at home, Fayetteville State. UNC Pembroke this week, Wingate next week. Win these 2 games, and we're talking about Fayetteville State for the rest of the season as the premier team in the CIAA. Lose these 2 games, and we're quite possibly talking about Fayetteville State being the bridesmaid to somebody again in the CIAA. First game, beat UNC Pembroke, break this horrible streak. 30 years. 30 years. Break the streak, Fayetteville State. Get it done, baby. Who you got?
All right. The CIAA, they have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games where they're crossing over in region playing Virginia State, Lenore Ryan, Fayetteville State, UNC Pembroke, Livingstone, Catawba, Shaw, Wingate, and St. Aug and Tusculum. Oh, 6 games. Well, at Bowie State travels out to New Haven. But
They host.
I'm looking.
Bowie hosts that game.
Excuse me,
Bowie
you're right.
hosts that
Correct.
game.
They host. But I'm looking at the 2 crossover matchups between the 2 HBCU conferences: Elizabeth City State, Benedict College, and Winston-Salem State, and Central State.
Central State. Yeah.
And I am of those 2 games, I got to go with the Winston-Salem Central State game. Kevin Porter goes to Central State. First game, we know what he did previously when he was at Fort Valley State as head coach. Winston-Salem State, they were the most winningest Division II HBCU in the 20 teams, but they've been off for the last couple of years. Can Winston-Salem get back to its winning ways? And can Central State just win? And, oh, by the way, speaking of Central State, congratulations to former Central State coach Bobby Roan II, who on Saturday had equaled his career win total at Central State by defeating Edward Waters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good win for Florida Memorial there in the Big Cat Classic. Lots of offense, and now they get to travel to Southern University to take on the Jaguars,
And get a check.
and yeah, and get a check. So good game. Edward Waters, while you mentioned him, Edward Waters is hosting Clark. It looks like they are hosting Clark, so that'll be Coach Slater's debut going up against Edward Waters. We'll see how they bounce back. I will mention this Miles College Alabama State game. Alabama State got the big win, MEAC SWAC Challenge. Now they got to turn around and play an in-state opponent who is not scared of them. Miles, maybe it was a different coach last year, but a lot of those players are still there. The program is still there. They took Alabama State, to the wire last year. Um, can Alabama State avoid the big letdown? I mean, this is a game you're supposed to win. And even though they won last year by, what was it, a point or a field goal last year, Drew? What was the final score?
14-12, something like that.
Yeah, it was close. It was about a field goal.
Alabama State did
like
not.
that.
Alabama State did not score more than 14, but it came down to a conversion. That's all I remember. It was a 2-point.
14-13.
It was 14-12. Oh, it's 14-13 or 14-12. Because I think Miles needed a 2-point conversion, and they didn't get it.
Yes. So, I mean, that was a game that Alabama State won, but it felt like a loss.
They lost.
Yes, and yes, in some places they lost. Definitely. So that's one of those games that we'll see how Alabama State rewinds. What's another one that you're looking at?
Time for me to play Captain Obvious. Sunday, Fort Valley and Tuskegee in the Red Tails Classic.
Yes.
Both teams coming in with new head coaches this year. Kind of an oddity in the Classic to open up the season. So let's see how that play out. Obviously, we know where my heart is with that particular game.
And last game for me that I think I'll spotlight. Nobody is starting the season with a tougher schedule, I believe, than possibly Morehouse. Morehouse, but the advantage to the tough schedule is 3 home games, 1 neutral site. They start against the 19th ranked West Alabama team this week. That is at Morehouse. Next week they host West Georgia, 5th ranked. If I mean, obviously, veteran coach Rich Freeman. What does Morehouse have on the roster? They weren't predicted to finish, I think, higher than 4th or 5th, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in the middle of the pack of the SIAC. Right. But these are some tough games to begin the season. And I also mentioned after those 2 Division II region contests, they have a neutral site game against Howard, and then they host Savannah State. So, I mean, look, those first 4 games are tough games, but 3 of them are at home. So, you folks in the AU, the Morehouse alums, jump in there and get to Morehouse and support them. What you got?
Did you look at Miles' schedule to open up the season? Open it up on the road at Alabama State against the week 2 against that same number 19 West Alabama.
Yeah.
But week 3 at home against number 3 Valdosta State.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean,
that's a tough 3.
It is tough. And I think what I did is probably because of the fact that Savannah State is predicted. Well, look, in our very own metrics, we have Savannah State rated as one of the top teams in the SIAC next to Albany State. A lot of people don't perceive Savannah State that way, but the numbers speak otherwise. So that's kind of why I said that and thought that. So it'll be interesting. All right. Any final? I think we kind of covered the key games there. Anything else you want to add before we break out?
No, holiday weekend coming up. Lot of
Yeah.
food, lot of family, lot of football going on. Uh, just make sure that everyone is safe. We've seen how crazy people have been, so we want to make sure that everybody gets back to work next Tuesday or Wednesday. And we'll go ahead and let you know. Uh, Next week's show, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know how
We may come
when
on
are we gonna do
Monday.
it show?
I was gonna
Okay,
say it
Monday.
may actually be a Labor Day show because I know I will actually be at the Tuskegee Fort Valley game during our normal show time. That I will be at that game, and then you're going to be in Miami at the. You should be
I
about
will be.
wrapping up the Jackson State, Florida A&M game in the OBC. So
I'll
I
be
think you need
drowning
to move it to
myself in
Monday.
either sorrows or champagne. One of the two. Sorrows or champagne. One of the two. One of
Yeah,
the
so
two. I don't know which one. I'm hoping it's champagne.
yeah, so
The good stuff.
we'll move this show to Monday night for those who are our normal listeners. And thank y'all for normally joining us. But we'll still be on the BCSN on other shows throughout the weekend and the week. It just won't be our normal time slot on Sunday night.
Right. Want to encourage everybody to make sure you go check out the BCSN Pod Zone podcast of all of our shows. You can listen to them. You can find the BCSN Pod Zone, PODZONE. Find it everywhere you listen and download the podcast. That's Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Spreaker. Well, I don't think we're on Spreaker, but we're a lot of other places that you can find our show. Just do a search for BCSN Pod Zone. And when you get there to that place that you listen and download, make sure to rate, give a thumbs up if you can, or rate it, give a review, whatever. Let the algorithms know that you enjoyed the show, and make sure to hit subscribe. And subscribe to the YouTube page if you guys are on YouTube, MyJBN1. Subscribe to us on Facebook, BCSN or the BCSN SportsWrap, and then follow us everywhere on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number one. Download the Jericho Broadcast Networks app, Google and Apple Play Store, MyJBN, MyBCSN. Again, announcement coming out probably tomorrow with information on joining our picks contest. So you'll get a chance to compete against me, Drew, and some of the other folks. And remember, the objective is to win. Sometimes you might have to pick against an HBCU. That just happens, but you're trying to win games. But we encourage you to kind of find those games that you feel confident in, and then do like what me and Drew did. Make the commitment to finding at least 2 HBCU games to pick in your 5. So all that information will be coming out, and we'll start working on that other show that we were talking about. We'll kind of figure a way how and when to do that. All right, Drew, let's pack up and get out of here. Thanks to Charles Edmond. Thanks to Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. Long show, but a good show. Great content. Excited that football is back. We get to talk all week and get ready for week 1. So make sure to stay tuned to the Black College Sports Network. We're giving you content as only we can, trying to extend the conversations to give you more and more information about your favorite HBCUs. For AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
We'll holler.
But my beats, they are hard.